panelist, but
Good afternoon and a warm welcome to all of you for day 3 of PHARMASTEER. First of all, I would like to thank each one of you for joining us today for PHARMASTEER 2022 once again. I feel extremely pleased and never feel tired to say that this first of its kind orientation program for postgraduate medical students is receiving great accolades with each passing day and has been organized by the Department of Pharmacology and Therapeutics, SAGES Medical College and KEM Hospital, Mumbai, in collaboration with AstraZeneca. I, Dr. Apeksha Bhandari, Manager Medical Excellence from AstraZeneca, would like to welcome each one of you once again for the third day. I hope you guys had great time the last 2 Saturdays like we did with diverse topics and have also received the poster topics and guidelines for the same. I'm sure you have received because I've gotten a lot of questions. For the ones who have not received the guidelines topics, kindly reach out to us. With this, let's not keep everyone as well as our speaker waiting. And without further ado, I would like to start the first session, something we all have to empower ourselves with, that is art of manuscript writing. And for that, we have today Dr. Shirish Shashikant Joshi, Professor Additional CGS Medical College in KM Hospital, Mumbai. He has a total teaching experience of more than 25 years. He has positions held at Transplant Authorization Committee of CGS Medical College and KM Hospital, Mumbai, nominated as subject expert on UG as well as PG Board of Studies in Pharmacology at BLD University in Vijaypura, Karnataka, ex-associate and assistant editor of Journal of Postgraduate Medicine, examiner on the panel of National Board of Examinations, and chairperson Aditya Jyoti Eye Hospital Ethics Committee. With this, I would like to hand over the platform to you, sir. Sir, over to you to start the session on art of manuscript writing.
Thank you, Apeksha, for those kind words of introduction. Just help me out in sharing the screen.
Sure. If you could just go down and share the screen, there's a green. Yes, if you could just go with full screen, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Over to you, sir.
So, am I audible and visible now to everyone?
Yes, sir. You're audible, visible, and your slide decks are visible.
Okay, thank you so much. So, we begin with today's lecture, that is on art of manuscript writing. So, remember, as scientists, as researchers, we all do good work, good research work. We also present this work in various conferences and workshops. But when it comes to publications, we are a bit reluctant or hesitant in publishing our good research work. So I'll be guiding you for next 30 minutes over how one should proceed, okay, with the manuscript writing. What are the elements? Okay, what are the essentials about manuscript writing? And right from journal selection, okay, to selection of various, or rather fulfillment of various criteria required for manuscript writing. So what is manuscript writing? So manuscript writing is nothing but an art of presenting scientific data. Remember, the data that we gather from our research work is huge, it is complex. So all that huge data we have to simplify and convert it into a simple, concise, and a presentable story format. So take it as a story, okay? But when it comes to writing, you have to divide that story into several components, okay, which are as per the standard format, okay, and make it short and simple, and then submit to the necessary journals. It is the most descriptive way of presenting research to the external world. The key objective is to present facts based on scientific data and research by following the good publication practice guidelines, okay, thereby ensuring data integrity and publication ethics. So as I've said, let's understand the difference between presentations and publications. So we are very eager to go and present our research work either in the form of poster or oral in various national, international conferences. Wherever we get opportunity, we make those good templates, okay, and we go and present. So what is the basic difference between presentations and publications? Presentations does ensure availability of data in the scientific domain. However, the level of information, okay, that is obtained is limited. It is generally a very short and crisp. So you are given either 5 minutes time and then an extended 2 minutes for question and answers. So maybe you're not able to present your scientific work in a more complete way. Okay. Nevertheless, those are visually attractive. However, there are no specific guidelines for any workshop or conference which essentially have to be followed in a particular format. So everyone makes his own templates, makes his own poster as per his choice of selection of colors, and that is how we present in different conferences and workshops. So why should one publish? So publications, remember, generate peer-reviewed citable references. The level of information is vast. The level of information will stay for a lifetime. It could be easily accessible to the vast number of audience. Even though they are lengthy and full, okay, if that message from your scientific research article is very strong and adherent to the manuscript submission protocol, okay, and your selection topic is also very hot, recent, okay, definitely it will attract more and more researchers who will go through and read your full article. It doesn't appear as attractive as the presentations, okay, but however, publications will stay with you and with the world forever, and definitely one can always go back, refer to these publications and expand or extend their scientific. And remember, there are ICMJE guidelines, which is nothing but International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. Okay, so layout of the paper is always in accordance with the ICMJE guidelines, which is generally not the case with presentations. So as we proceed further, what are the prerequisites, okay, for manuscript writing? So remember, the writing of a scientific article is a work of art that is honed with experience. So before submitting the manuscript, be sure that it has been consistent with the instructions to the author. No matter whatever journal you select, okay, whether it is indexed either in PubMed or Scopus or Embase or any of the other indexing agencies, you have to adhere to the instructions of the author. So it may sound that some instructions may be too harsh. Okay, you may not be able to comply immediately, but all that you have to do is to adhere to them before you submit your manuscript. For that, one should have a reasonable good writing skills. Okay, one can develop this over a period of time. Okay, by maybe there are writing skills, learning experiences, workshops. Okay, it could be from internet. Okay, and so that is why you keep on improving. So remember, when you're writing one manuscript, it is recommended at the same time that you are peer reviewing at least two of them. So more the articles you peer review, okay, it actually helps in your language, in your command over language or your writing skills. So good writing skills, okay, which always can be improved upon, one of the essential prerequisite. Second most important thing is the expertise and knowledge across the therapy areas. Okay, one should be well versed with the area of the research, the subject under consideration. Okay, in and out with all the new guidelines or the new developments. Okay, so then manuscript writing essentially becomes a very easy step if one is very versatile in that particular area. Understanding of the target journals, the area of research where you work, you should know which journals are suitable, okay, for your manuscript. Say for example, if you have an research work on gastrointestinal tract, so there are good journals like gut, okay, and gastroenterology and others. One should be well versed with the journals which are available nationally, internationally, and indexed in various indexing agencies. Also, one should adhere to publication ethics, publication guidelines. Remember, a logical and a creative mind is always needed. So you cannot work subconsciously on a manuscript. Okay, its manuscript is not a way that I mean, like you work Monday to Friday or Monday to Saturday, and you have Sunday. So let's finish the manuscript on Sunday. So remember, that is not a manuscript writing. Manuscript writings requires lot of determination, lot of patience. Okay, so remember that, and it requires analytical thinking. So that is most important part of the manuscript writing. In addition to logical and creative mind and as well desire to communicate, there should be appreciation for those for who the audience is. So it is always better that when you're writing the manuscript at the back of your mind, you should know who is the target audience and who are the likely readers who are going to read your article. And of course, there should be a willingness to revise, and rewrite as and when queries come from the journal editors or from the editor. So as I've said, manuscript writing requires patience. Okay, it requires determination. Okay, it requires a lot of time and effort. Okay, and one should be mentally prepared for rejections and for revisions. And if revisions do come, it could be once, it could be twice, it could be more than that. One should be prepared to revise, rewrite, and persistent with the manuscript. The new norm is publish or perish. This is a new norm. Now, in academic settings, is becoming very difficult for teachers, okay, who are actually managing the undergraduate work, and at the same time, they have to take time out for publications. So, considering the new CBME curriculum, which is vast, extensive, a lot of efforts are needed to put in undergraduate teaching with the required resources and manpower. So, it has become a really uphill task for the researchers, especially the teaching faculty, for getting their publications done. So, is it a harsh reality? Yes, it's a harsh reality, but I would say it's a new way of life. So, one should be well versed and with the new guidelines laid down by NMC, and take it positively, okay, take it constructively, and devote time, give time. So, manage your teaching, manage your research and other activities, and at the same time, promote publications. Remember, it's always important. The fact is that research actually done, it's going to benefit your patients, the physician, investigators, as well as the community at large. So publish or perish, though it's a kind of a like either you fall on this side or that side, but it's a new way of life, and one should take it positively and move forward. So why publish? So again, there are two ways you look at it. One is from career advancement, and one is from the research advancement point of view. Definitely, from research advancement point of view, when your work is accessible to the large audience, if some researcher wants to take that particular work to a next level or to a higher level or to expand the research work, definitely your article will help him in doing that. So it helps in knowledge building. If you're meeting these researchers on a common scientific platform, either at conferences or workshops, definitely you can have 1:1 discussion on this. So it could be experience sharing, thought stimulation. So these are some of the advantages from research point of view. From career point of view, especially this I'm talking with respect to academics, there is appreciation by colleagues. Okay, it helps in increasing your, I mean, enhancing your curriculum vitae. Okay, now NMC has laid certain guidelines that at least for assistant to associate professor, you need 4 publications, and for associate to assistant professor additional, you need to have kind of a 2 publications. So this problem is there in the academic settings, but one should take it positively. Okay, definitely promotions will not take place if you don't have the desired number of publications. But definitely, if you have publications, you will score much ahead of the others, and there will be a financial benefit. So why publish your work and whether it is publishable? So you have to ask yourselves few points. Have I done something new or interesting? Remember, your work, your research work should be novel. It should generate some new idea. It should answer certain questions, okay, which are the unmet needs. Okay, so otherwise there is no point in repeating something which is available in the existing literature. So have I done something new, interesting? Is there anything challenging in my work? Okay, is my work related directly to the current hot topic? If you select a topic or like a condition which is no longer existing, okay, your research may not get more value, as there won't be much appreciation from the readers, and you won't get that kind of audience. Okay, so as far as possible, you do your research work in a current hot topic, okay, on in an area which needs more attention, more drugs, okay, more kind of clinical trials are required. So is my work related directly to the current hot topic? So you have to look from that point of view. And have I provided solutions to some difficult problem? So all these things at the back of the mind, you should have before you actually begin your research work, and when you're submitting it to a suitable journal for publication. So you should be able to answer why you're doing your research and whether it is publishable. These are some of the additional things that you should have at your back of your mind. Does your paper contain sufficient new material? Is the topic within the scope of the journal? So that will again depending on your research area and the journal which you have selected. Is it presented concisely? Is it well organized? Okay, have you adhered to the instructions to the authors? Then are the methods and experiments presented in a way that they can be replicated again? Are the results presented adequately? Is the discussion relevant, concise, well documented? Are the conclusions supported by the data presented? Is the language acceptable? And when it comes to figures and tables, restrict only that has been defined by the journal. Don't exceed and do not kind of repeat the information that is given in the figures and tables in the text as well, unless you have to, write something very pinpoint on some issue which is remarkable. Okay, otherwise your figures tables should be self-explanatory and they should give a clear message. Finally, when it comes to referencing, are all the references cited in the text included in the referencing? So there is a sequence of writing the references, and the references should also be written in an orderly, mannerly fashion. Okay, from your text. So either in the ascending order, or some journals, okay, don't have any particular way of writing the references tank, but generally it should be written from the beginning, and the numbering should match till the end. So remember not to include abstract in references. Many researchers put references in the abstract, so that is actually not needed. Your actually referencing should start from introduction. Remember the 3 C's of writing. First is the content. When you say content, it is pertaining to your research work, what you have done, okay, and how you are going to proceed about that research for writing a manuscript. Second thing is a clarity, and third is a compliance. So if you remember these 3 C's of writing, I think the half of the job is done, and you should be able to write the manuscript more clearly and more in a more simplified way. Okay, keeping in your research article in focus. So as I've said, content should be direct, simple, in a clear style. So you need not have to write in a say hi-fi English language. So simple English language, all that is what is needed. Simple, understandable English language. Avoid jargons. Okay, avoid abbreviations which are not universally accepted. Okay, otherwise then it will be very difficult for the researchers to make out. They use standard abbreviations. Clarity, as when I say use of words, then use of punctuation marks. Remember, grammatically, your article should be correct. If you're not good with the language, you can give it to your friends for peer review. Remember, your friends are your best critics. So they will read in between the lines and point out the mistakes, which will actually help in shaping up of your manuscript. And finally, the compliance. So again, this is the most important part from the legal point of view as well. So do acknowledge people who have supported you in conducting your research work. Okay, and if there are any disclosures of conflict of interest between the authors, writers, editors, all this should be written and submitted prior to the manuscript sending. I mean, you send it together, but it should feature in the covering letter. Remember, those who have contributed only to the scientific part, essentially, they should come as authors, sub-authors, corresponding authors. However, like you have a lot of technical staff who support you in investigations or any other ways of say translations of patient information sheet or something. So you can always put their names under acknowledgement. So no need to put them as authors. Only the people who have contributed to the scientific work, okay, in a direct way, only those names should focus in the featured in the manuscript as authors. Remember, corresponding author is also equally responsible in overall conduct and manuscript submission process, and he is the one who is going to get the queries, and he has to respond it as and when he get the queries. So as I've said, keep your answers ready and be focused. So what is your target audience? Who will be my main readers of my article? What will make the readers more interested in reading this article? Curiosity. What will make the readers curious in reading this article? All these things you have to keep in your mind before actually you start writing the manuscript. Concern. What will be your main concern? Or what will be the main concern of the readers? What are the likely questions or are likely doubts that they might ask later on, or in a way of kind of a letter to editor? All these things you should keep in mind. What are the expectations? What does the author or the authors expect after the readers have finished reading these articles? So all these things you should you should keep it at the back of your mind and be ready for answers if there are any queries either from the editorial board members or from any of the readers in a way from a way like a letter to editors. So the readers can send their queries in a form of letter to editors, and editors can again come back to you and ask for the explanation. So you should be able to be mentally prepared for all this. And finally, why should they read the article? In the author's opinion, what will be the readers or the audience learn from this article? So these are some of the few points that I would like to say that please keep this at the back of your mind, and then you start actually writing the manuscript. And as and when you write the manuscript, keep evaluating, rethink, okay, revise, and then rewrite. Then you have certain online library databases. So this is helpful when you will select a journal, target journal. So whether it is PubMed, Medline, Web of Science, Embase, Scopus, Science Citation Index, DOAJ, Cochrane Library. These are some of the online library and databases. NMC and most of this list of essential databases or indexing agencies fall under NMC guidelines. So make sure that your journal is at least indexed in one or two of these indexing agencies. Most important is your first page file or the covering letter, which should mention your type of manuscript. So whether it is an original article or a review article or an editorial or short communication or even a case report. So your type of manuscript should feature in that. Okay, if it's an RCT, then you can always write it, whether it's a single blind or double blind trial. Authors, corresponding authors, along with their departments, affiliations, email IDs, mobile numbers, contact numbers, etc., should feature. Conflict of interest. So there is a form which is there online, available online with most of the journals. Only thing you have to download it, take signatures of all the authors, and if there are any conflict of interest, then you have to put it over there and scan and upload it at the time when you are submitting the manuscript. Number of tables, figures, please adhere to the journal instructions. Don't keep either too low or too high number of tables and figures. Remember, tables, figures should be self-explanatory. Okay, just looking at the tables and figures, one should get an idea of what exactly the author wants to say. It could be, you can also include pie charts or pictograms, whichever way you think that is appropriate for the manuscript. Remember, if that's a multi-centric kind of a sponsored trial, then you can quote a CTRA registration number, or if you're a student who has obtained a student training sponsorship kind of, then you might get that kind of a number for the student. So it is wise to quote that number in your covering letter. Okay, and of course, financial support in whatever way. If you have in any way the sponsor has supported this particular this, or if it's an investigator initiated trial, then who has provided you with the instruments, cost of instruments or procedures, who has done the investigations, or who has support finances for the investigations. So if all this data is there, you should preferably write in your first page file. Then coming to the most important part is the anatomy of the manuscript. It's bigger. So when we say anatomy, these are the headings. And how does it differ from the IMRAT format? When you say IMRAT format, which we followed for our dissertations and thesis writing, it is nothing but introduction, methods, results, and discussion. So when we're talking about manuscript writing, it will also include title, abstract, keywords, okay, in addition to the IMRAT format, along with references and appendix, okay, conflict of interest, funding, sources, acknowledgements. Okay, so all these things uh, will be there in the anatomy of the man. So remember, these are the essential elements. Remember, the title should be simple, concise, informative, specific, and accurate. It should be neither too short, too long. Abstract could be either structured, unstructured, depending on the journal requirements. It should include ideally four headings. First is the study background, second is objectives, third is the key methods, main results, and then conclusion, short conclusion, followed by keywords. Okay, keywords are useful tools and they will help the readers in searching your articles. So use keywords which essentially follow the mesh terms, okay, which are the medical subject headings. Okay, do not use keywords arbitrarily, only use the mesh headings. Introduction essentially can be split into two or three parts. First part giving you the study background, like what is the background research in this area. Second paragraph can address the unmet need. The third paragraph can be actually your study, what is your study and how you have planned this study and what you're going to do in this study. So those things can become in the later paragraphs along with the hypothesis and study objectives. Remember, it's often the last part of the introduction that is read by most of the readers. So make it more interesting. The one who reads the title completely will only go and read the abstract. And if he finds the abstract interesting, then only he will go and read the introduction. That is how the logical thinking goes. So remember, make sure that you use all these things write these things very carefully and cautiously. Methods, okay, methodology, most important part. It should give an idea of your overall plan of work, your study design, whether it is retrospective, prospective, observational, or interventional. If it's an RCT study, whether it is single blind, double blind, all this will feature in the methodology. Then your subject selection, or if you're doing a preclinical research like in animals, then your name or number of animals, whether you have taken animal ethics committee permission. If it's a clinical study, whether you have taken institutional ethics committee approval. Okay, inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria should be depicted along with variables, outcome measures, and definitely statistical test. Okay, yeah, there will be the last part. Okay, if you used any statistical software and from an authentic source, please quote that source. And if you have paid version, please quote the version number. Okay, there are of course there are free statistical tools also available. You can use them. Results definitely should be in the form of text, tables, figures, illustrations, and numerical accuracy. Use preferably the actual data than percentages. That is what is recommended. So results should means only results. That should not be interpretation of results in the results. The interpretation of results should go in the discussion section. So all the novel important findings, okay, in the descending order, interpretation of your findings, analysis of the possible mechanisms, then your limitations, drawbacks, okay, future implications. All these things should feature in your discussion. Remember, adhere to the author's instructions, whichever journal you have selected. There is a specific word count given for each of these headings which I have mentioned, and just adhere. So don't use the word count above that, and don't use the word count below that. And in the discussion, avoid jargons, avoid just highlighting the positive things from the research area, and don't make use of generalized comments like how this research work will be helpful to the community and all. So avoid jargon or inflatability of the findings. So just adhere to whatever you have obtained from your results and purely just interpret that in your discussions. Conclusions, of course, uh, it should give a clear take home message that what you have done, okay, and what is your final conclusion. Okay? So the conclusion itself should not be confusing, that what ultimately the authors want to say is not clear, then the entire purpose gets defeated. So remember your aims, objectives, rationale of doing the study, your inclusion exclusion criteria, your variables, outcome measures, uh, results, discussion, and conclusion. They should work in sync with each other. Okay, there should not be any data mismatch, or you have mentioned one objective as different and nothing as of that sort has been reflected in the methodology or in the discussion. So please avoid that. So make sure that your manuscript is in sync with all the things that you have mentioned, from title to the references. References, again, some journals prefer Vancouver style, some journals prefer Harvard style. So depending on the journal requirements. Again, these are some of the guidelines which I would like to mention. You have ARRIVE guidelines, CONSORT guidelines for randomized clinical trials, ARRIVE for animal research. Then you have TREND, PRISMA guidelines. Okay. Then you have case reports, care guidelines, your stroke guidelines for observational studies. For genetic association studies, you have STRAGA guidelines. And of course, standards for reporting of diagnostic accuracy studies, you have the START guidelines. So make sure that you are well versed with these guidelines, And whatever is your research work, say if it's preclinical research work, like read the arrive guidelines and follow the guidelines, and then go proceed with the manuscript writing. So is your research paper complete, optimized, submission ready? That should be your this. Have all authors agreed the content of the submitted manuscript? Is your paper aligned with your target journal's publication policies? Have you created a winning submission package with all the necessary details? And does it include a persuasive cover letter that showcases your research? This is a kind of a preliminary checklist which one can keep at the back of your mind. Remember, there are a lot of predatory journals available, so avoid them. Use journals which are like worldly acknowledged, worldly recognized. And if you're a beginner, you can use a PubMed journal with a relatively low impact factor. So there is a chance that your publication will get accepted easily. Okay, if you first send it to a very high impact factor journal, then if you get an outright rejection, then you might get demoralized, and then you may never go ahead with the manuscript writing. So start slowly. Okay, go with the low impact factor journals, essentially PubMed, Index, Scopus, or Embase, and then as and when you get confidence, more the number of articles, then you go for the higher index journal. So this is what is the summary which I have said. So I don't want to reiterate it again. So title in short should describe the contents clearly. Author should get the duly recognitions. Abstract essentially should describe what was done. Keywords, as I've said, useful tool obtained from mesh headings. Introduction should explain the problem, methods, again your information about the plan of work, data, IEC approval. Results describes what was discovered. Discussion is nothing but interpretation of your results. Acknowledgement, so ensures those who have helped you in the research work get due recognition. References ensures previously published work is recognized. Appendices provide supplemental data for the expert reader. So this is how you go about. Once the paper is submitted online, you immediately get a confirmation of receipt. Then it will go for initial decision by the editor. If it's an outright rejection, you will get the rejection mentioning whatever it is. The journal, this your article is beyond the scope of this journal, or your journal is not, this article is not suitable for publication in this journal. So go to a more specialized. If you have an Indian data, then this article may be suitable for publication in Indian journal and not international journal. Okay, so but if it goes for peer reviews, then either you will get in the form of revision, acceptance, or rejection. So whatever queries you get from the editorial board, so please make sure that you make those changes, revise them, and resubmit. Okay. So once it gets published, before that it comes ahead of print. So ahead of print is also considered as a way of publication, and maybe after 1 month or two, it will come into the original journal as a published article. So if you're a newcomer, these are some of the important things like what are the impact factor, reputation of the journal, overall editorial standards, and so and so. For a marginal qualifying factors could be experience of a journal editor as a referee, track record, quality and color illustration, service elements. It is quite often the author is told that please quote 2 or 3 review members. So we will send your articles to those members. In that case, selection of referee does matter. These are some of the terminologies you should be well versed with. Citation is a way you tell your readers that certain material in your work come from another source. Impact factor is nothing but a measure of frequency with which average article in a journal has been cited in a particular year, and it is used to measure importance or rank of a journal by calculating the number of times the article is cited. Again, Hirsch index, the number of papers X that a scientist has published and that has received at least X number of citations. So it will help in measuring the influence and visibility of the scientist and the research groups. Okay, half-life is nothing but a measure of how rapidly the interest in the article decays after publication. So it is always better that whenever you complete your research work, try to publish it in within next 3 to 4 years. Otherwise, your research work might get obsolete, and chances of getting published is becomes very less. So indexing will help your journal achieve its main purpose of being accessible to wide audience, and in that way, it will improve your journal's reputation as a reliable source of high quality information. We quote references in your manuscript, but when we write our dissertation, generally it is a bibliography. So you can have a look at this bibliography and references. And there are some similarities and some differences. It's mainly with respect to citations and the style of writing the references. Then why citations are important: to avoid plagiarism, to respect intellectual property of rights. They provide evidence from the work of others, researchers, okay, and help the reader trace and track down the sources of information. And these are some of the basic citation elements that one need to understand. You can have a look at this basic citation elements. Then remember, there is this pyramid where in vitro research, animal research is at the bottom, and your systemic reviews and meta-analysis is at the top. So if your articles is the randomized control trial of systematic review, it has more weightage. Okay, so there is a chance that you might get this published in a very good journal having a high impact factor. Last few words on plagiarism. Avoid plagiarism. It's nothing but theft and use of other people's ideas or words, use of sources without attribution. Okay, presenting someone else's ideas as your own when this idea exists already in other source. All that is called as plagiarism. So it's a behavior by a researcher, either intentional or unintentional, that falls short of a good ethical and scientific standards. Again, there are again different types of plagiarism, could be intentional, unintentional. So if you have done it deliberately and knowingly, it is intentional. Unintentional maybe because you're not aware of the publication ethics, you're a newcomer, can happen. Copy pasting of word to word paragraphs or sentences again is a type of plagiarism. Then replacing, reordering, rephrasing someone other's research work and then putting as your own idea or own research work, again that is called as mosaic or patch writing. Self plagiarism, you submit your article to 2 or 3 journals at the same time, thinking that someone will give a approval beginning and later on you can withdraw from the other 2 journals. That is self plagiarism. Or you split your own research work into 3 or 4 different articles and submit each article to a different journal for publication. Again, that is again a way of self plagiarism. It is a minor crime, but essentially if caught, you can be blacklisted as an author and prevented from doing publications in future. Then there is salami slicing, which I've made, which I've just told, splitting your own research work into 2 or 3 parts. Ghost writing, okay, people who are not even know what your studies, you are keeping them as authors. Collusional, like you are hiring a professional, giving him all the manuscript data and telling him to write in his own words. So again, these are the different types of plagiarism. Then you have fabrications, falsifications, which are the 2 most common types of plagiarism. Okay. Creation of non-existent data and results, and the act of recording and reporting them, that is fabrication. Whereas manipulation of research materials, equipments, or processes, or omitting data and results so that research is not accurately represented. Again, you have gift authorship or ghost authorship and guest authorships. Again, different types of plagiarism. So not plagiarism, but again you can say a violation of ICMEG guidelines. So one should avoid this. Summary: remember, writing a paper for medical journal has its own accolades as well as disappointments. So rejections always should be viewed as learning opportunities. Go through the comments carefully by peer reviewers and editors, as these are valuable learning tools and lessons for how to avoid mistakes in future submissions. Once you get your 2 or 3 articles published, then you will be confident, your writing skills improve, your way of submission improves. Okay, your queries that come back to are very less, and this is how it increases your publication process. Remember, it would not be advisable to give up after the first failure, but often we learn more through our failures than through our achievements. Someone has quoted on the lighter side that those who can, they write, and those who cannot, actually they are good at editing. Okay, so one of your enemies says not writing but just criticizing, give your manuscript to him and tell him to edit. So that will actually help in building your manuscript. And it is said that those who cannot edit, they are responsible for setting the editorial policies. This was quoted way back in 1969 by Anonymous. And last slide is on the few kind of quotes which you should remember. Amount of writings of a professional is a measure of its vitality and activity, whilst the quality is a rough indication of its intellectuals. So make a habit of writing, do write. Nevertheless, mistakes can occur. Okay, you might get rejections, but always make a habit. And at the same time, please keep on peer reviewing at least 2 or 3 articles simultaneously. Michael Faraday had said, ki, if you're not published, then why did you start the work in the first place? And when you started the work, why not finish it? And if you're not finished, then why did you start the work at the first place? And if you're not published, then why did you finish the work? So he was very much in favor of publication. So remember, work, finish, and publish. Okay, remember all these 3 words just at the beginning when you start your research work. And if anyone wishes to write a clear style, let them be clear in their thoughts. It was written by Johann Wolfgang, again a writer and a scientist. And last slide. So remember, if a science is bad, no amount of writing skills will make it publishable. So your study design, science should be perfect. However, if the science is good, editors will help you dress it up, even if you're not good in your English language or English writing. So thank you very much for patient listening. So that is the last slide. Over to Apeksha.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Shirish Joshi, sir, for an excellent deliberation. I hope the students now cherish writing the paper and none of their papers get perished, as you mentioned. So thank you so much, Dr. Shirish, sir. Since we are a little behind time, we'll take 2 questions. The first question is, do number of rejections affect the acceptance of an article in future?
No, actually, I mean, it doesn't make any difference, because once you get a rejection from that journal, you are not going to submit your article to that journal anymore. You will always select a more suitable articles and then submit it. So unless you quote in your covering letter when you are submitting your future manuscripts, only then the editor, more than the rejection, editors are interested in what is the reasons for rejection. And the reasons are reasonably good. They are sound nothing to do with the scientific design or conduct of the manuscript. It won't do harm for your future publications.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Shri, sir. The next question is, you did mention in terms of good writing skills and you can develop it. Any recommendations from your side of how you can develop them?
Recommendations means you can, there are online videos on how to write a good paper, or how to improve your writing skills. Okay, then there are workshops, okay, half-day workshops of which will improve your language command as well as writing skills. Okay, and a lot of information is available on the internet. Okay, so maybe there are various sources through which you can improve your writing skills. But the more important thing is you have to begin first. And once you are used to writing 1 or 2 manuscripts, then automatically it will improve your writing skills. So there should be willingness from within to write a manuscript at the first place. That is how we'll improve the writing skills.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Shri, sir. We'll take last one question. Since you're also an assistant and ex-associate editor, are there any recommendations from your side to the students here of what you look at?
No, unfortunately, the journal which I was editor had an acceptance rate of only 7%. So
Okay.
for beginners, I would not recommend to send that particular your paper to this, because you will get demoralized immediately. Remember, every journal has a different policies. What JPGM does, Journal of Postgraduate Medicine, the first thing after we get the manuscript, we look at the references, whether they are written in the correct style. If the references are not in order, as per the Vancouver style, it's an outright rejection. Okay. So every journal editor's editorial board has a different policy. So maybe, as I've said, you select a journal with a relatively low impact factor and go ahead with it, which has an acceptance rate of at least say 50 to 70%.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Shiri, sir, for your valuable insights. Thank you so much, students, for asking these questions as well, and for sir to actually answering them from your behalf. With this, let's go to our next topic. This is a topic that you have requested, which was on innovation, artificial intelligence, and there were so many such. So we just combined all of them. And for this particular topic, we have with us Dr. Shubhankar Basak, India Health Innovation Hub Lead at AstraZeneca, a subject matter expert transformed to a result-oriented, accomplished business professional with more than 15 years of diverse experiences in cross-functional areas, including medical affairs, sales, marketing, business development, customer education, life sciences research. With exposure of working in multicultural environments, Indian and US, and in multi-sector business segments, who will be taking about a Catalyst Network, the home of patient-enabled innovation. With this, I hand it over to Dr. Shubhankar Basak. Sir, over to you.
Thanks, Dr. Apeksha. Thanks for this introduction, and good afternoon to all the participants here. I'm facing a little bit challenge to share the sound here because there is a small video.
I'll just ask. Team, could you help them?
Shubhankar sir, Nirav, I'll just help you while sharing the screen on Zoom. Na? Once you click on the once you click on the share screen, okay, where the last window you open, click on that, just full screen, and that's below that the window you can have a share sound option.
So that's not getting checked. That's few minutes back I have tried. That time it worked, but now it's not.
Okay.
Dr. Shubhankar, shall I ask the team, because they have your presentation to share with
I have done little bit change in the last
Sir, without share directly, you can share it the PPT if you can just share it.
Okay, let me try. If you do not have sound also, that may not impact the ultimate outcome. So thanks. Now let me take you through my presentation, and I'll be trying to highlight how we can improve the quality of our patients, because the aim of the healthcare ecosystem is not only to prevent the disease, but how we can improve the quality of life. And so in next 30 minutes or so, I'll try to provoke your thought process so that you can also start thinking beyond the pill with intervention of technology, digital aspects, how we can improve the quality of life. So as I told you, I'll be talking about what is innovation, who we are, where we are creating innovation, how we are creating innovation, and most importantly, what is the need of creating innovation, why we want to create innovation, right? So before going to the small 1-minute video, I'll just try to ask you, what is the meaning of a meal? Is it a simple act of eating for nutrition? Actually, meal generally bring us together. It's about creating a connection. It also helps us to initiate a conversation and also sharing quality time and moments with our near and dear. But think of a situation where there is a patient with neurological disorder having a lot of tremor incidents, how they will suffer when having a meal. And many of the times, it actually steals the focus away from friend and family. With this background, I'll just try to show you a small video and see how innovation can bring the change. Great. So I think you get the crux of the whole story, how innovation can help this patient to increase the confidence on her. And this is a very simple technology which is available across the photographic world. We use it in the gimbal technology, just a stabilizer which stabilizes the spoon. Because beyond the pill, the nutrition is also an important factor for a patient. If they are not able to have the proper meal, if they do not have the confidence, that actually impact the ultimate outcome. So we are talking about innovation. So what is innovation? Nick Skillicorn, who is a German creativity and innovation expert, mentioned turning an idea into a solution that adds value from a customer's perspective, known as innovation. The technology giant IBM tried to extrapolate that into the healthcare space. And they mentioned any development, simple or complex, that lead to improvements in health outcome and patient experience are healthcare innovation, right? So there are a lot of myths around that, the innovation, where from innovation comes. Sometimes we think, extraordinary ideas can only bring innovation. It requires, huge resources, fascinating technologies. But we have experienced in the earlier videos how a simple technology which is existing in some other areas adopted into this space and able to provide better experience, confidence, increase the self-dependency, reduce the dependency on others to a patient, and ultimately helping to improve the outcome. So that's why, people mention most innovation comes from outside your industry applied to your own. So what we are doing in A Catalyst Network? A Catalyst Network is a physical hubs connected virtually through different partnership between patients, healthcare practitioners, governments, policymakers, academia, technology companies, pharma industries, different other ecosystem stakeholders, investors, because they are also an important part, and the entrepreneurs, to foster a patient-immersed culture, improving experience, and ensure better outcomes of patient by advancing equitable access to affordable, high quality, and innovative healthcare solution. So this is a separate vertical that AstraZeneca has created to provide better experience to our patients beyond the pill, creating partnership with different stakeholders within the ecosystem, and we call it as A Catalyst Network, the home of patient-enabled innovation. So across the world, we have 21 A Catalyst Network hubs. You can see here in this map cartoon. And India is one of the leading A Catalyst Network hub in the AstraZeneca world to provide the equitable and affordable access to life-changing healthcare solution for all our patients. So what is the aim of our India Health Innovation Hub? Our vision is to provide affordable and accessible healthcare for all. We enable the collaborative ecosystem, as I have mentioned, for open innovation to address the healthcare challenges in India by collaborating with technology partners and startups who are bringing the frugal innovation in the different industry space. And the value that we are adding, improving the lives of patients beyond the pill. And how we are creating this innovation framework. So we have tried to create an ecosystem, and this ecosystem having a lot of different partners under the umbrella of India-Sweden Innovation Center, where Business Sweden, which is the trade commissioners wing of Embassy of Sweden here in India, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi and Jodhpur are the anchor partner, along with AstraZeneca, which is a knowledge partner, and NASCOM, Center of Excellence, IoT and AI, is the industry partner. We also have multiple governing partners from India and from the international arena, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, ICMR, Embassy of Sweden, New Delhi, and different other Swedish counterparts. And we have a lot of ecosystem partners like Atal Innovation Mission, Niti Aayog, Invest India, CCAM, so on and so forth, as well as startups who are very much integral part of the whole ecosystem. And what we are doing in this ecosystem, we try to understand what are the typical gaps in the patient journey, which can be fulfilled or bridged through an innovative technology or digital technology. So in the innovation process, we have three different pillars. First one is fostering innovation. So we try to gather the gaps in the patient journey. What are the different challenges interacting with different stakeholders in the healthcare ecosystem? And we run innovation challenge. This time we are running our third innovation challenge. The result will be out next week to get some more advanced technologies which can help the patient. We also try to incubate the startups in our incubation center in All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Jodhpur, and NASCOM Center here in Bangalore. We provide them mentorship. And when I'm talking about we, it's not only AstraZeneca, all the anchor partners, governing partners, and the ecosystem partners are within the mentoring space, and all the startup will have the access to different stakeholders in this ecosystem to get the mentorship. We also have different VC and PE funding associated with the ecosystem. They can provide funding to the startups to initiate their ideas, test their ideas. We also provide global reach and scale up opportunities to our startup partners. The second important pillar is capacity building and skilling. We run a lot of activities to upskill the capabilities of the nurses, HCPs. We participate in different conferences like we are participating here to instigate the thought process of different stakeholders. We also publish white paper or articles in peer-reviewed journals. Another important pillar is co-development of processes and protocol. We have live COEs, which is the test bed for the startups to test their ideas in a clinical setup, validate it. We provide state access as well as help in policy shaping. And the outcome that we are aiming at to provide better accessibility and enhanced patient experience, because we believe the patient experience and outcomes are shared responsibility of all the parts. Through in next couple of slides, different flagship program that we are running currently to help the patient to get better experience. You all know how devastating is lung cancer. This is the data we get from Globocan. 72,000 patients diagnosed. The more critical is about 66,000 patients or equal amount of patients died as well. About 50% of the patients diagnosed at late stage. The 5-year survival period is very, very poor when we detected patient in late stage. There is a paper from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi, from Dr. Randeep Guleria's clinic. It shows about 20% patient misdiagnosed at TB in the early stage. And we do not have any screening program here in India so that we can identify patients early. Low-dose CTs is definitely available, but it has its own challenges. Access, affordability is a challenge. However, X-ray is done in ubiquitously. Whenever a patient comes to a hospital for any kind of admission, X-ray has invariably done. So can we use X-ray as a tool to find out incidental lung nodule and then channelize the patient through a proper route so we can identify the lung cancer patient earlier? And with this use case or problem statement, we have identified Cure AI, which is a Mumbai-based healthcare startup, who has developed an artificial intelligence-based tool to identify the lung nodules from an X-ray. This is a CE-marked, US FDA approved, huge data set used to train the AI. About 5 million training data set have been used, globally validated. So we have partnered with Cure AI to implement this solution across India and 20 different countries where AstraZeneca is present, to identify lung cancer early and to reduce the cause of mortality because of lung cancer. And we also participate in Edison Alliance, which is an alliance created in World Economic Forum last year. And our commitment is to screen about 5 million patients through our partnership with Cure AI. So this is one example. Second example, you all know, as per the guideline for any respiratory obstructive disease, spirometry is the first line of diagnosis. However, as per the published paper, the penetration of spirometry in different clinics, not in the chest physician level, maybe in the general physician and the general practitioners, is very, very poor. And the paper also mentioned the other barriers. It's expensive, sometimes interpretation is difficult. So how we can help to increase the access of spirometry across the clinic? So with this problem statement, we actually found out a very interesting solution, IoT-based handheld spirometer, which is much affordable. And as this is IoT-based solution, it is much easier to interpret. So this is a small handheld device. The usage is as per the conventional spirometer, and all the reading comes in a attached smartphone. So it can track, it can be used for unlimited patient, comprehensive report that doctors can get, calibration free, and it's a battery operated. So easier to deploy in clinic to identify the pulmonary function of a patient who comes to our clinic without depending on a conventional spirometer, which access have limited in different part of the country. Another flagship project that we are running with a Bangalore-based startup called Tricom, how we can help to reduce the golden hour of a cardiac patient by interpreting the ECG through expert interventional cardiologists and through AI. So whenever a patient goes to a clinic, if the clinic has connected with Tricom, they can perform the ECG. ECG immediately transmitted to a command center here in Bangalore, and expert interventional cardiologists are available 24/7. They can look through the ECG, give their comment. The ECG can also be interpreted through AI, and within 5 minutes time, ECG interpretation report can be transmitted to the center in 5 minutes time, and then accordingly, the patient can be routed to an advanced center. So with this initiative, we call it as Heartbeat. So far, we have touched about 40,000 patients. We have created about 15 hubs, 66 spokes, and an average time is about 3 to 5 minutes. And in 2022, we have identified 700,000 abnormal ECGs. And out of that, about 1,000 ECG was really critical. So these kind of solutions help to patient identify their disease cause much earlier and taken proper steps so that we can reduce the time for the golden hour. The next initiative that we have taken, we all visit different clinics. Maybe after some time we forget where we have kept our prescription, right? So there is a need from the doctor side as well as from the patient side if we can digitize the prescription. So we have partnered with a startup called DocOn, who provide a holistic EMR platform in local languages, connect with the doctor through telemedicine platform, also connect with e-pharmacy. So we have present now in 15 major cities, about 1.4 million prescriptions generated in last 2 years. About 1,200 HCPs adopted this technology. 10% consultations done through video, and 30% HCPs subscribe to e-pharmacy option. And one of the leading media house in India, the Economic Times, also adopted this story. And this actually bringing a lot of transparency into the whole process and empowering the doctors and patients to have their health record in their fingertips. So whenever they are having a recurring visit, doctor needs to just visit the DocOn platform and they can see all the medical record at once. I was talking about the capacity building and upskilling. So we also understand how we can upskill the capabilities of the nurses who are working in the NCD space. The first initiative we have taken to in the diabetic space. So we have created an online module, e-learning module, which has 2 different kind of level, basic and advanced, which takes about 20 to 24 hours time altogether to complete the whole coursework. And the timeline to complete the coursework is about 2 months for the nurses. And once they complete this coursework, they will be well equipped to handle the diabetic management. And after completion of this coursework, the nurses will also be awarded some credit points. So far, as I have mentioned earlier, about 1,500 nurses have taken the benefit of this coursework, which actually developed by All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi and Jodhpur. So in our incubation center or our innovation center in All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Jodhpur, collectively, we have created a comprehensive cancer patient support services. We call it as oncology COE, because in Jodhpur, the doctors has experienced dropout of patient whenever they detected with different cancers. So how this dropout can be reduced? Because in the state of Rajasthan, most of the treatment is free. So it's important how to boost their confidence, how to provide them different kind of counseling support for the psychology, palliative care, holistic cancer care support, nutritional inputs, as well as physiotherapy. So in this COE, we are providing the support for these 5 different parameters. About 20,000 patients, 2,000 patients have been touched upon in 10,000 hours of counseling. And we are monitoring 2 different aspects here. What is the revisit rate, whether the dropout are reducing, and what is the weight loss? Is there a weight loss or they are maintaining the weight? Because that's a very important parameter for the cancer patients. So with the intervention of this program, we have seen about 65% revisit rate, and there is no weight loss among majority of the cancer patients. Now, All India Institute of Medical Sciences is preparing a manuscript, and we also taken an initiative how we can develop a plug and play kind of model so that we can scale it up into multiple other institutes. So next year, our target is to deploy this kind of plug and play module into other centers. So these are some of the priorities that we have set for the A-Catalyst network for 2022 and 2023. Some of the solutions we have already identified. Some of the solutions we are trying to identify through the innovation challenge, interacting with the different other stakeholders. And I would request you, if you have some solution in your mind, if you find out some of the problems in your patient journey, in your practice, please contact us. You can visit the A-Catalyst Network web portal. You can visit India Sweden Innovation Center portal, just scanning these QR codes. And you can also provide your ideas, your problem statement in a Catalyst partnering application portal, or you can also directly reach out to me with your ideas so that we can collaborate, we can work together, we can connect you with the right ecosystem so that you can also take your ideas to the next level and help the patient to get better experience and outcome. With this, I'll come to an end and thank you for patient hearing. Back to you, Dr. Apeksha.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shubhankar, for taking us through that particular session, since there were so many questions on innovation and machine learning. And you did also discuss of what are few of the examples of those particular innovative technologies that have helped in terms of diagnosis, treatment, etc. So thank you so much, Dr. Shubhankar, sir, for that particular question. I just had a few questions as well. Wanted to check. So you did mention on how artificial intelligence as well as machine learning is helping. But is there a growth curve of how artificial intelligence and machine learning will be for the next 5 years, and how medical affairs or pharmaceutical industry as a whole will affect?
This is very, very important questions, Dr. Apeksha, and everybody, as this is a new field, growing field, everybody has this kind of question. So I'll borrow some thought process which Dr. Devi Shetty has shared in some of the conferences. What Dr. Shetty said, in next 5 years, it will be the mobile device which will help the doctor and reduce the unwanted people in the hospital setup who will be required to touch the patient. They will be there in the hospital setup. Everything will be done by AI or related technology tool. Just look back and see how technology has changed the whole banking world, right? I remember my dad used to bring his salary in an envelope with a lot of notes and some coins. When I got my first salary, I got through a paycheck. Now we get our salary through SMSs, right? How many days we go to bank nowadays? Earlier we used to go to ATM center. Now we are not going to the ATM center also. UPI can do the magic for us. So there are a lot of use cases. There are a lot of solutions already into the healthcare space within the clinic, as I have mentioned about Cure AI, which is helping to identify the patient much earlier. So more and more of this kind of solution will come to the clinic to help not only to the doctor, to help our patients as well to get better outcome and experience.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Shubhankar. There's another question that's come up. Since primary health centers form the backbone of the Indian healthcare system, catering to the needs of most of our population, what is the outreach plan for these devices to reach the masses? I think this particular question is especially since you've answered or took those examples as well.
Yes, absolutely. Very, very important question. If we want to become the #1 in the world, we need to take the advantage of our demographic dividend, and for that it's important we need to strengthen our healthcare system at the grassroots. So there are multiple devices nowadays coming into the space which can help the PHC system to connect with a district hospital so that remote monitoring can happen. And I can tell you one example which BBMP, the municipal corporation here in Bangalore, is trying to create the digital PHCs in connecting the 27 different PHCs in Bangalore under the Bangalore Smart City Network. So all the PHCs will be connected to a command center, and the PHCs will have a 24/7 nurse, and all the digital IoT-based integrated instrument will be there, and patient goes to these PHCs, nurse can help them to connect with a doctor or expert sitting in a command center, and they can treat from remotely. So all these networks are evolving now. In next 5 years time, I'm 100% sure we also see what we used to see 20 years back. Doctor will be coming back to our home, not physically, but digitally, because we see nowadays everything is coming to our home, whether shopping, whether getting some other grocery stuff. So everything is coming to our home, even the bank. So now the next step, the clinician will also come to our home, not physically, maybe through digital intervention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shubhankar. My next question is a little out of the box. I just wanted to check. Now, most of our thought process is, inside a box as well. Is there any skills that the students, because this is one question that I keep getting from their feedback, any skills that they can develop during the MD students' days itself, which can help in terms of innovation as well?
So again, very important question. So what I would suggest, keep your eyes and ears open and try to see, how a different industry solution can be utilized in your industry. I have shown the video. That's the reason I try to show that video. How a technology which used in the photographic world to stabilize the camera, used in a different world to stabilize the spoon for the patient who has a lot of tremors, right? So keep your eyes and ears open so that you can identify the different solution and try to bring that solution for your domain.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Shubhankar. And one follow-up question to that, although you did highlight that particular topic in your discussion itself, since these are all fresh minds and postgraduate students, so where do they apply if they have some innovative idea?
So that's why in the last slide, I was thinking, people will ask this question. That's why in the last slide I showed, please visit a Catalyst Network website. You can write back to me. If you have some really good thought process, ideas, problem statement, use case, please reach out to us. We can connect you with the right ecosystem so that you can test your idea. You can, take help from those technology ecosystem to flourish and give back to the society and help the patient.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Shubhankar, for those excellent deliberation and answering the question so patiently as well.
Thank you, Dr. Aprisha, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shubhankar, once again. With this, our next session, which we have received maximum number of questions, and hopefully we will try to solve majority of the questions. And the particular topic is various opportunities for pharmaceutical physicians in the industry. And for this, we have a very diverse panel here, and I'm really glad and proud of the panel and diverse important roles that these physicians play in the industry. We have with us Dr. Viraj Rajadaksha, Area Medical Director, Middle East and Africa, who is no stranger to us and whose professional goal is to regarded as a pharmaceutical physician who endeavors to spread and practice the highest standards of pharmaceutical physician, both inside the organization as well as externally in the environment. And also to highlight, and I've already mentioned that, is a proud Gosumek as well. Our next panelist is Dr. Ajay Kumar Sharma, Director of Government Affairs at AstraZeneca. He has diverse roles in various functions and was the Senior Director of OPPI, managing public policy for one of the most regulated sectors in the largest democracy in the world. Our next panelist is Dr. Abhishek Thakur, Marketing Manager, Asia Area Frontier Markets and Country Manager at Sri Lanka at AstraZeneca. He has approximately 10 years of experience in various functioning, including medical affairs, sales, and marketing at AstraZeneca. Next panel, Dr. Santosh Kadam, Director, Site Management and Monitoring at AstraZeneca, a scientific, strategic, and operational leader with over 12 years of experience in clinical development within the pharmaceutical and biotech industries. Next, Dr. Kavita Varghese, Medical Excellence Associate Director, International, who is building medical affairs capabilities while ensuring consistently high performance across countries in the international region. So you can see we have a diverse function from medical affairs, government affairs, marketing, clinical research, as well as medical excellence with varied experience. First of all, a warm welcome to every one of you, sir, who have been welcomed here. So I'll start with the first question, which I would ask all of you. What is your role in the industry presently, and how was your career growth? And I would like to ask Dr. Viraj first. Dr. Viraj, over to you.
Thank you, Apeksha, and thank you. As always, it's a pleasure to talk to everybody as part of PharmaSteer. PharmaSteer is a unique opportunity because we started it in India, and countries like Egypt, Argentina, and Turkey probably are copying things. So this is really made in India, and we're very proud that we are doing this. All together. Very quickly about my journey in the industry. I joined the industry close to about 18 years back. Like many of you, as a medical advisor, we did not have MSLs at that point. It was a traditional medical affairs role, organizing scientific exchange meetings, advisory boards, medical education programs, some real world evidence studies. And over the few years, I'll just quickly summarize that I got an opportunity to work in various geographies. And that meant geographies like Korea, which generally are not on the top radar of many of us. Geographies like Malaysia, Singapore, where I worked as a medical director, building teams there. Geographies such as Latin America and Middle East, where I worked both as an area medical director, which is broad leadership role, as well as therapy area roles. So over the last 16 to 17 years, what I did, I could manage, thanks to the strong support provided to me by my mentors, by my colleagues, is a couple of things. Number one is work across multiple therapy areas: oncology, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and now vaccines. Number two is work across geographies. And that included Asia Pacific, Middle East, Russia, Australia, emerging markets, also working in the UK. So, I think that is very important. Number three is working across functions. Very early in another organization, I got an opportunity to work in clinical research for about 2.5 years, and where, Santosh and I, we worked very closely. Now, that does not mean I wanted to get into a career in clinical research. But as a pharmaceutical physician, it is very important, to learn the broader function of our whole pharmaceutical medicine, medical affairs, regulatory, clinical research. Because at the end of it, when you become a medical director, you would learn this. And my last point, which I would like to share with you, is as our function becomes more evolved, we are doing a lot of work which is not traditionally in medical affairs. We are building diagnostic functions in our teams. Now, that was not expected from any of us 10 to 12 years back. We are working on public policy, working on government affairs and market access. How can you improve access to healthcare? This was not expected from us 10 to 15 years back. Last year, when we launched a very specific monoclonal antibodies in COVID-19, we launched in one of our countries, Egypt, without any sales reps. It was only medical team on the field. And I'm very happy that Abhishek will share his experiences here as well. But medical teams getting into commercial functions, because in some areas like rare diseases and specialty oncology, it will be medical and market access teams that will eventually lead the business function. And that is something that I got a chance to work on in various things. So I think if I have to summarize, geographical exposure across, functional exposure, therapy area exposure, and even moving out of medical function occasionally, and then deciding for you. We must all understand we all have a journey. The journey can be different. There is no prototype. Each of us will have a separate journey, but looking at the opportunities and at every step learning and becoming a better professional is what I would suggest all of you to do.
Thank you so much, Dr. Viraj, for those insights as well. And so you have learned from the leader and about medical affairs. So now he did mention about marketing and sales role. So now I would request Dr. Abhishek to kindly discuss about what your role in the industry is and how your career looked like in the industry as of now.
Okay, thanks, Apeksha. So what I will do, generally, the marketing people are kind of obsessed with the slides and presentation. So give me a second. Let me present my journey in AstraZeneca with the help of a slide. I hope my slide is visible.
Yes.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you everyone. Thank you, Dr. Viraj, and thank you, Ajay. It's good to be a part of such an elite panel and for the opportunity, Apeksha. So for me, you can say that I'm kind of born and brought up in AstraZeneca. So I started my career in AstraZeneca in 2013 in medical affairs. So I started as a regional medical advisor, and then from there I moved to medical affairs manager. From there, working till 2016, and then I took a cross-functional move and moved into marketing. And in marketing, I worked for around 3 years. Uh, from marketing, I moved to commercials, which is like the third and the most important pillar, or I would say the foundation for any pharmaceutical company. And here I started as a senior sales manager, handling a first line sales manager as well as a sales team. And after that I moved as a country business manager for a small country, Sri Lanka. Along with that, I was marketing manager for Asia area frontier markets across therapy areas. It was for CVRM, oncology, respiratory, and before moving I touched vaccines also. During this time, I handled 12 responsibility. So I was working as a marketing lead for Asia area and majorly focusing on blockbuster brands of AstraZeneca like Forxiga and Brilinta. And now I have moved. So it's like in October, I have moved to a new role, which is a global role. And here I am working as a global senior marketing manager, again in the CVRM. And then across this whole journey is from AstraZeneca. So from RMA to the global role, it's completely AstraZeneca. And then let's see what future holds uh, in the next coming years. So this is from my side, Apeksha. And just to summarize how Dr. Viraj has connected all the dots, I think it's very important for a company who is working in a innovative molecules to establish the science, to understand that how the science helps the patients and their relatives. So everywhere the journey starts with medical, that how you can understand that science and then bring it to your doctors and how it's going to help the patient. So I think it's going to be very exciting times. It is, and it will, for anyone who is looking towards as a medical function in a pharmaceutical industry.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Abhishek, for sharing your career growth and how you started in medical affairs and shifted to marketing and then the diverse roles. So thank you so much. And I hope the students who are listening also think in those terms, that it's not just medical affairs, you have diverse opportunities that are there. So thank you so much, Dr. Abhishek. Now, a total different perspective, and we've gotten this question, Dr. Ajay, in terms of the first 2 days as well. And now I would request Dr. Ajay to discuss about your role in government affairs. Sir, over to you.
Thanks, Apeksha. Thanks, Viraj and Abhishek. Very detailed. Uh, I never envisaged I will be here. So they are very elaborate. They actually said the journey. I never thought I'll be in this role forever. So it's just that one led to the other led to the third. One thing what I was very clear was when I was doing my medical, by the time I came in my fourth year of studies, I realized this is not the field I wanted to pursue any further. I think I did have that clarity. Uh, and if you recollect, the early 2000s, there's not much about medical. It was all about getting into post graduation, then pursuing the standard lines. Uh, the only way you could have looked at was abroad, what globally people did, and that's where we probably were fortunate enough to have some form of social media at that time, LinkedIn and all, where we could have at least looked outside. And one of the roles which you could see was MBA. So yeah, that is how the natural progression happened towards MBA. The only thing was I picked up more of a product marketing MBA, not a service marketing, because I always believe that no one can teach service better to a doctor than anyone else. We actually live that service, and there's no point of us all those 5 years which we have struggled of meeting people, meeting patients, doing also that gave us a very good ingrained service marketing. What we really needed was how you do product marketing. That is something which we really falter on, and that's where I focus more on the product marketing. And rest, as I said, I actually never chose this. It's just lucky to be here. I know that's not the answer you guys are waiting for, but yeah, that's the answer from my end.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ajay sir, for that particular topic. And you did mention on abroad, and I'm sure there are a lot of questions on that as well, and we might ask that later on. But thank you so much. I'm sure many of the students will be thinking in those terms itself that, okay, I think I need to think of a different perspective or a different way. And that's why this particular discussion is very, very important for those particular pharmaceutical physicians. Next, let's talk about clinical research. And for that, we have Dr. Santosh Kadam. Dr. Santosh, sir, what is your role currently in this particular industry, and how was your career in this industry?
Thanks, Apeksha. Good evening, everyone. Very excited to be in this group here, talking about the journey that I've gone through. There was one day, back in the past when I was at the other end, listening to a few of my role models talk about how their journeys took them to where they were. So I am currently a director, and I represent the group which is called Site Management and Monitoring within AstraZeneca. And our function is to deliver the clinical studies of AstraZeneca. And when I say deliver it in terms of the number of patients that need to be recruited per a particular timeline and budget, and with the resources that have been allocated or agreed upon. So we help deliver or complete clinical studies of AstraZeneca in India. That is the function to which I belong to. My journey in this started way back, probably in school. If I may confess, I am a big science fiction fan, lots of books and movies, influenced by several movies, to be honest. Research was something that caught on, but what kind of research is nothing that I got to know until I reached my MBBS. And it is only during the time of my internship that I got exposed to clinical research proper. I had the opportunity to work at St. John's Medical College in the Department of Psychiatry on a Pfizer's clinical study as a clinical research coordinator. And my function then was to support the principal investigator in the management of the patients in the clinical study. And from there on, my interest grew in clinical research. I became a clinical research associate, and then went on to manage studies as a project manager, then became a line manager, and now I'm here in AstraZeneca as one of the persons whose accountability lies in delivery of our studies, and which in turn, moves on the molecule which is potential to the next set of individuals or the groups to bring it out to the patients.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you so much, Dr. Santosh, for discussing about how your career growth looked like. So thank you so much for that. And next speaker or panel member is Dr. Kavita Varghese, who will be talking about something that is interesting to me. I always thought whenever I introduced myself, I always introduced as manager medical excellence, but there was none a time when there was a question about what is medical excellence. So thankfully, to describe on that, we have Kavita, who will also discuss on what her role in the industry is and how her career looked like. Kavita, over to you.
Thank you so much, Apeksha. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and also such an esteemed group of panelists. It's awesome. So moving on to my my career, the starting is pretty funny. A little bit different from Dr. Ajay as well, because I was so sure that I would never get into the industry when I was doing my MD pharmacology. I wanted to get into academics. I wanted to be a teacher because my poor students would have no option but to listen to me when I take class. So from there, it just so happened that moving into AstraZeneca was a serendipitous thing. I got an opportunity, decided to try something new, at least for the time being. I thought education is mainly in academia, but then I realized when I joined AstraZeneca as a regional medical advisor, or MSL, if you will, that education is very much a part of an MSL's role, except that now we are talking to a different kind of stakeholder. And it's not just about medical education, it's about trying to shape clinical practice, and it's about trying to find out what's the best outcome for the patient. And there's a lot of, forgive me for using an old word, nobility and all of those things that is actually part of that. forming that bridge between the patient and the doctor back to the company, bringing in insights, and then taking information out to the doctors, which is considered cutting edge because we are the primary source of that new information. But I also had another interest, that is to kind of figure out what works and how things can be improved. And that's when I discovered a very niche department within medical affairs umbrella. That was medical excellence. It's more of a central role where you have visibility into all therapy areas, and you can get the opportunity to have strategies, design fixes and solutions that can actually benefit the entire medical affairs role. So in that sense, you are actually helping the medical affairs team to be the best possible team that they can be. And that was quite exciting to me. That is how I shifted into medical excellence after my MSL stint. And that was, I think a lot of people here are very interested in how to jump abroad and go into an international setting, etc. So from there, I had quickly shifted over to an international setting. So there is my market experience and then an above market experience. But let me tell you this, more than geographical relocation, what was more interesting to me about it being an international role is the sheer scale. I think, there are so many diverse cultures and diverse market specificities, and working with all of that, that was extremely exciting to me. Still in the role, so still is exciting to me. And yeah, so my journey isn't that long and as impressive as the others on the panel, but it's definitely been an interesting one.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Dr. Kavita, for those words as well. Now, since the next question is based on your expertise or area of expertise, I'll start with you. The next question is, what are the skills? And this particular question has come repeatedly during our feedback, that what are the skills that we can develop during our post-graduation? How do we develop those skills, etc.? So we have a diverse group. So from each of the group, we can discuss on what are the skills that is required for that particular function. So let's start from the area of expertise of yours in terms of capabilities. For particularly medical excellence, what are the skills that are required?
All right. So yeah, like you rightly mentioned, this is my bread and butter, very passionate area of mine. So capability building for medical affairs. Something that we are expected to bring to the table when we are recruited by the company would be our scientific expertise. It is a given that you have the adequate educational qualifications to understand the science and to relay it to the doctor. But that's the catch. Communication skills. It doesn't matter if you have a lot of science in here, but you can't articulate it and you can't explain it well to a doctor in a way that it resonates. And more importantly, it's the art of conversation. And this is not something that they teach you officially in med school, not yet anyway. So there are some soft skills aspects that actually give you the edge in a profession when you, especially when you move into the industry. So it starts with developing your emotional intelligence. You need to progress on to developing your communication skills. Very importantly, having a strategic mindset, because medical is not just about delivering science and bringing back insights. There is a strategy behind all of this, and how you can actually think of what all good questions lead to strategic initiatives that benefit patients. How can you actually maintain that bird's eye view while looking into the details? So strategic mindset would be the third. But if you want to get ahead in the industry, after you enter, the one thing that I would recommend everyone have is learning agility, because the evolution of things is very fast. I think COVID taught us that there are so many things that we need to pick up on and drive forward very fast. Our ability to actually learn new things and adapt and evolve would be extremely important in our survival, and not just survival, but also prosperity in terms of professional career growth. So that would be, I think, the three most important things I would like to emphasize on.
Thank you so much for those, Dr. Kavita. Next, I would ask Dr. Santosh Kadam, in terms of clinical research, especially as the position that you're now, as well as if they're joining initially or starting as a fresher, what are those skills that is required? Yes, Dr. Santosh has a slide ready. Over to you, sir.
So I just wanted to bring this on a slide as we already got to hear. scientific concepts and the research design, ethical considerations while taking care of a patient are few of the things that doctors get to know during the course of their education, right? That is what probably one should concentrate on during the early part of their education, or if they have such a plan of career. And then the ones which are here from 3 to 4 or probably 6 are the competencies that one can develop when they are in a role within clinical research, which is firstly the regulations which are governing clinical research, the local regulations of a country, how do you manage a site in terms of project management skills, a little bit of data management kind of knowledge would also be very helpful. So these are things that you probably pick during a job, on job kind of a development that you undergo. While the last two, again, this is something that I'm sure will be across all functions: communication, leadership, professionalism. These are, I'm sure you can start with it very early in your age and start to develop on these particular competencies, get into situations where you would be able to utilize them the most, or build them the most, right? It could be simple post a presentation for your communication, or talking to a particular investigator at a particular site. Being part of a group and leading the group is something that you can start from college, but then takes a lot of time to develop. Maybe the ones that I'm showing here from 1 to 6 are things that you can develop or grab as a knowledge, but the remaining are something that you slowly get to know as you mature.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Santosh sir, for that particular insights. Next, I would ask Dr. Abhishek. Here, I would not ask when you joined, because you joined as a medical affairs personnel, but in terms of marketing, because I'm sure many of them would want to shift from medical to marketing based on your insights. What are those few skills that you think is important for during that time as well? So, Dr. Abhishek, over to you.
Sure. So I think the first thing is that Kavita has shared some very good one. I don't think much is left here from the marketing side also to share. But if you ask me, the two skills which I have found are very important, and when I'm gonna say them, you will think that they are very innocuous one, but believe me, it takes a lot of effort to develop them. The first one is collaboration, and when I'm saying collaboration is not only with external stakeholders but with internal also. So just to give you an example, when I'm sitting here in Cambridge in a global role, one of my colleague is from Egypt, one of my colleague is from UK, and one of my colleague is right now from Malaysia. So all three are from different cultures, from different backgrounds. How they, even a simple word, they see it in a three different meanings. So the collaboration with understanding what they are saying and what you are saying, make them understand. These are some of the very important things. The first is collaboration. Second, which I have realized is very important, is active listening. So we all listen a lot, but this active listening thing is very, very important, because I'll just touch base what Kavita has shared. When you deal with the diverse culture, so sitting in a marketing role, especially if you have a global role, you don't have to make a strategy for European or US market. You have to make a strategy as deep as Vietnam country, which can adopt, or as you can get sub-Saharan African countries who can adopt your strategy. So you have to be very, very collaborative. You have to understand what they are saying before you jump on a strategy. So I think the two, apart from what Kavita has shared, on a general sense, is collaboration as well as active listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abhishek, to add on to what are the other skills that's required as well. So thank you so much for that. Our next role is totally different from all this. I'm sure that some of the skills are required for the next role as well, but what are the other skills that's required for government affairs? Dr. Ajay, over to you.
No, thank you. I think not the ones which Dr. Kavita and Dr. Santosh have referred. Definitely not those. So if you really ask me for government affairs, I mean, I feel underprepared when I'm seeing all of these guys are presenting slides. So you can understand government affairs doesn't need you to present slides. But yeah, if I have to give one skill which is top of my mind, it's a dichotomy which I'll be telling, but do appreciate what I'm trying to reach out here and say. For a government affairs successful guy, you'll have to be a very positive extrovert, but someone who is very impeccable on integrity. Now, I mean, I'm sure this is something if people who understand these two terminologies will appreciate that these two don't go hand in hand. And this is a skill which no one can teach you. It is a skill which you'll have to develop as you progress, as your jobs progresses. And for that, you need some very good mentors. Even I had the blessings of very few good mentors in my life, without which probably I wouldn't be standing in the role which I'm standing today. So I think if you could have that impeccable integrity with being a very positive extrovert, then probably you stand a very great chance of making a great impact in government affairs.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so for that insight, Dr. Ajay sir. Next, Dr. Viraj, I know Kavita has mentioned how it is for a fresher, but since you have gone up the ladder, what is it? Because as you grow up the ladder, the number of vacancies are less. So it's some particular measure that is there that needs to be done. So what are those skills that made you a leader?
And before I start, Apeksha, I think it is very important for us to understand when we are doing MD. Why are you recruited by the industry? The industry looks at you, the cross-functional teams in the industry look at you for your clinical expertise to begin with. And many times when we are doing MD pharmacology or maybe public health, we tend to forget the clinical sciences. We tend to get dissociated from clinical medicine. And this is what I want all of you to remember, that during these 3 years, this is the best time for you to be working with your friends who are doing MD medicine. Generally MD medicine, internal medicine, or pediatrics, or at least a couple of other clinical spaces. Try to work with cardiology, try to work with chest medicine, other areas. Because this is the time when you will continue to develop that bond and you will see patients. During MBBS, we see patients, but we really don't understand patients. We are just learning. If you forget to do that in the next 3 years, I'm not saying that you cannot do it later on, but it becomes a Herculean task. So for all of you, please spend time in wards, in hospitals. Do not spend time in the afternoon sipping tea and coffee like many of us would like to do. So this is my, one piece of thing. Just as an example, oncology is an area which is not taught to us, during our MD. It is still not focused. We still, I'm pretty sure that we are still learning sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system and all of those. I'm 100% sure. I've not seen the curriculum recently. But when you join the industry, 50% of you at some stage or the other will work in oncology. That is where drug development and that is where medical affairs is evolving. 50% of you will work in specialized medicine in cardiovascular and respiratory or endocrine. And are we ready for that? And that is why clinical sciences is important. My second thing is that if you don't mind, I will just share one of my slides, okay? Just for a second. So let me know if you can see it. Can you see it?
If you could just, yeah.
Yes? Yes, okay, good. So how did I enjoy this journey and how am I still enjoying the journey? So I think one important thing is learning agility. I think Kavita mentioned that learning new skills and functions every 24 months. It is said that 5 years from after you have developed a skill, that skill actually becomes defunct, which is true. Nowadays, it might even be 3 to 4 years. Number 2 is active listening. I think this is very important. We hear, but we don't listen. Listening means hearing and implementing it in our brain. And I have been very fortunate to have been in the company of 2 of doyens who are my mentors in India, Dr. Arun Bhatt and Dr. Amir Sheikh. And they have always guided, advised me at every step. So this is a very important part for all of you. Number 3 is focusing on what you want to be remembered for, not what you want to achieve. And even during your MD, you set up something different, which the department later on carries forward. This is something that you should be doing. And 3 years is a fair amount of time. Generally we finish one life cycle of a role, in about 2 years, 2.5 years. So treat those 3 years as something that you want to do. The 4th point, and I think Abhishek mentioned it or somebody, but always collaborate, never compete. And one of my line managers very early in my career asked me one day that, who do you think is your competitor? And I probably mentioned names of all my colleagues who thought eventually who will come between me and the role of medical director at some stage of my life. He said, no, it is you yourself yesterday. And this is a very important message. Are you better as a professional or as an individual compared to yourself? And then finally, family, and not finally, but most important, family comes first, and that's it. And this is a balance that you have to do. And families sacrifice everything for us. And our ability to understand that and our ability to sustain our responsibilities at the same time during professional responsibilities is very good. My final point, which I would really like to share on all of this, is ability to work in teams and influence them in whichever role you have worked. These are 4 teams of mine. In some case, I was a team member. In some case, I was leading that team. In some case, I was a functional team member. These people did not report to me. They reported to somebody else, but I was responsible for their work. And in some case, I was working in interim role. And at every stage, ability to learn from them, ability to improvise ourselves and become a better professional is something that is really very important. Some of you will remember this very, very nice picture that we took in India. It was an interim role, but really working with all of you and adding value to yourself and also adding value to others is something. So I would really like to say, this is a very nice quote 5,000 years ago. We are kept away from our goals, not by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal. And we try to tend to that goal. And this was said 5,000 years ago. What is the reference of this? Now, you might say that, why am I saying this is a quote 5,000 years ago, from the Bhagavad Gita. The rationale here is keep to your roots. Understand from where you are coming. The roots will always keep on helping you. And they will always provide you with that energy and that enthusiasm to move forward. So that these are some of my messages.
Thank you so much, Dr. Viraj, for those insights. And I can see myself and Kavita during the initial days of her career in that particular photo as well. So thank you so much, Dr. Viraj, for that. So I hope the students are listening and also keeping a note of what are the important skills that are there for different diverse roles and different functions that is required. Our next question, we had a separate topic for this during our last PHARMASTEER. And I can see in the question answers, even now we are getting the same questions, and that is, how do we go abroad? How do we get global roles? And how do we move? So I'll start with Dr. Viraj, over to you, because you did move abroad. What are your, not just how, but what are your recommendations as well to the students?
First and foremost, I'm going to say you are all going to be disappointed with my reply. You're not going to be happy because my reply is going to be very different from what you expect. You need to understand India. You need to learn India. Never will you get an opportunity to learn things the way you have learned from India. You have seen Abhishek's profile here. Abhishek has worked for nearly 9 years in India, doing multiple roles. We have all worked. Kavita has worked for a couple of years. I worked for 10 years. So I worked for 10 years in India. I worked at some stage, I worked in areas such as Bhilai, Dhanbad. You probably hear these names only during election results. You don't hear these names anytime again. But ability to understand India is very important. This land gives you that opportunity to really understand the breadth and the impact that you can have on healthcare space. Once you have a good understanding of India, there will be many opportunities for you. And then if you want to go abroad, I would say decide what is your objective. Decide, gain expertise in 1 or 2 therapy areas quite well. In addition to the therapy areas, get 1 or 2 very good skills in people management. And then there are multiple opportunities, that can exist. 2 of the common geographies where typically medical graduates from India after a couple of years in the industry will go. One is Southeast Asia, such as Singapore, Malaysia, because there is a dearth of medically qualified pharmaceutical physicians there. And the second is Middle Eastern countries like Dubai. And this gives you a very good exposure because these are fairly well-developed countries. Their healthcare systems, they might appear to be developing countries from outside, but they have very well-developed healthcare systems. They are also closer back to India, and you might have, some responsibilities at that stage. So these are 2 general things, and from that, it is a stepwise approach. Learning from developed countries, then of course moving into countries like the UK and US, where basic drug development occurs to a much greater extent than any of these countries. But while I'm doing that, and before I stop, I want to also tell you this is not a one-way ticket. There have been enough examples where we go to the area, we go to the region, we go to globe, and we come back. And you come back with that expertise and experience, and you add value to your current role. And just let me give one example. I did a regional role in diabetes in AstraZeneca for Asia Pacific. And then there was a role of doing medical director of Malaysia, Singapore. So I took it. Many of my friends came to me. They said, Viraj, I'm really very sorry. You have done very good work. But I know, sometimes you have, please, we are very sympathetic. I said, no, there's nothing of sympathy. I'm learning as a medical director in a new geography. People don't understand that. People still feel that you have to go from India to Asia and then to globe and that's it. And you stay there for next 30 years. That is not going to happen. Even now, if some of us get a chance to work in China, we will go to China because that is where the pharmaceutical industry is going to thrive and prosper over the next 20 to 25 years. So again, to summarize, step number 1, understand India, learn India. You will never get this learning around anywhere else in the world. Once you have sufficient expertise, get into nearer geographies, could be Southeast Asia or the Middle East, as the case may be. And then as you start specializing, move into Western Europe, UK, US, Canada, Australia. There could be other countries, but keep your eyes and minds open. Come back as medical director India. Improve the teams here. Take it to the next level. Try to work into countries like China. Try to work into countries like Japan, who have proven, and China who is proving great technological advances. So really happy if we can have a discussion, and please reach out to me through LinkedIn or through other resources. But don't start thinking about jobs outside India unless you are in basic R&D, which is a different thing. If you are in basic R&D, you need to go out of India as soon as possible. But if you are in medical affairs, the country needs you. The country has invested in you. Give back to the society, give back to the country. And then, of course, at the right time, move out and then come back when it is required. Sorry for that long answer. And I'm sure I have disappointed many people who are on this call.
Of course not, Dr. Viraj. That's important as well in terms of setting up the right expectations for the students. Dr. Abhishek, since even you have moved outside the country, I would just ask your opinion for the same as well.
Yeah, first of all, I'll start. Thank you, Dr. Viraj, because I was thinking that I'm going to be the villain in this session by answering this question, but I think that's why seniors are. You have taken that complete blame from my head, the way you have answered, and I completely echo with your thoughts. So first, there is no the stepwise process here that you do A, you do B, you do C, and then D. It's global. It's something like whatever you are doing, you have to be good at. When I joined as a medical advisor, it was never a plan to, I want to be at the global role. It was always that try to give 100% to the role. I know it might sound a bit of a cliche, but actually this is the reality. There is no shortcuts that if I join this within a year, I wanted to go this thing. And there is one line which my ex-boss, who is currently the director for commercial excellence in India, always tells me is that if you are good in something, always remember that the system will suck you in. So if you are good in something, believe me, in a company like AstraZeneca, you will get the opportunity. And all of us who are here, you know the examples from our career journey. I am not sure how many companies will be there globally who can give an opportunity to a medical guy to move to marketing, and even after marketing, ask him to move to commercial sales, which is like, the only money generating department of a company. But this is what it is. I have done that thing. So I'll go back to what Dr. Viraj says, that there is no shortcut in whatever country. So for example, right now we are talking about India, but believe me, if a person who is sitting right now in Greece, he will be having the same kind of a conversation with his manager or her manager, is that first develop yourself in the current role. And then if you are good at this thing, you will get the opportunity and the system will suck you in to a global role. And again, global is not the end. I, like Dr. Viraj did a area role, I also did Asia area role. But then after that, I moved to one level down, but a broader responsibility. The number of countries from 10 reduced to 6, but the role was completely different. And that's what I think have broadened my horizon, which has landed me to this global role. So wherever you are, in whichever country, in whichever role you are, start from the basics, develop from there, and then definitely you will get an opportunity if you are good. You don't have to, there is no push strategy. Generally the pull strategy work in these kind of scenarios. System will pull you up.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abhishek, for re-emphasizing or emphasizing the part on pull strategies. Thank you so much, Dr. Abhishek, for those insights. Dr. Ajay, during the discussion on roles, you did mention about going to abroad. So just let me ask, are you of a difference of opinion, or do you agree to what Dr. Viraj and Dr. Abhishek did mention?
I do have a very different opinion. Sorry to differ, Dr. Vijay, Dr. Viraj, and Dr. Abhishek. Yes, I had my fair share. I always say this: money is not important in life. But before you say this stupid thing, make sure you have enough money in your pockets. So I come from that school of thoughts. Yes, I had my fair share. I have spent 3 years in Kuwait and Dubai, 3 years in Malaysia and Singapore, almost a year in South Africa, and a couple of months in both Europe, in France, and in US. So yes, I did have my fair share, and believe me, it doesn't take anything. If you want to go abroad, what is your main objective? Let the students first find out what is their objective. Do they want to excel in the career they are looking for, or do they just want to go abroad? So these are two separate things. Going abroad is not a big thing nowadays. Anyone can go abroad. I mean, it hardly takes take up a fellowship somewhere. Go and do your studies in PhD. The moment you do a PhD in some whichever country you wish to in future stay, you will easily get opportunities there. So it depends on what is it that you wish to achieve in life. Of course, you will have to find your own equilibrium where you want to settle. It is a pure individual choice. Believe me, I have been as a medical graduate, even I had this feeling of going abroad. We all have. Who doesn't want to go abroad, right? We all have this. But still, after a particular time, once you have experience, you may come back to India like me, like Abhishek or someone else. So the whole idea is you'll have to find a equilibrium. Going abroad is not a big challenge. But as let's assume Dr. Kavita said, she was very keen, she will never go to the industry. So are you ready to make that sacrifice? If you think I know a neurosurgeon in my time, one of the best neurosurgeon working with me at Wokhard, he went to UK as a general practitioner, as a family medicine guy, because his entire job was to go back to abroad. His wife was based in UK. So he left his practice, a soaring practice at Wokhard in Mulund. Imagine a neurophysician leaving his practice and going as a general family physician abroad. So are you ready to make those sacrifices? If you're ready to make those sacrifices, believe me, going abroad is not a big challenge. But yes, I do agree with Dr. Vijay what he said. If you follow the company route, so if suppose you are in AstraZeneca, you join any pharma company, your roles will be limited. And there is a reason why the roles will be limited. Because since you have a experience of market like India, you will definitely be offered areas which are in similar comparison to India. You couldn't be expected to join a US or a UK by just this experience of India, right? So let's be fair enough. People are running businesses and you'll have to make yourself employable. So whatever you do, rather than talking, it's better to see how do you make yourself employable with these people out there. So that will, in a nutshell, will be my answer, Apeksha.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ajay, for bringing that difference of opinion as well. So I hope the students are understanding about what you have to sacrifice. When you're thinking about medical affairs, you did hear from Dr. Viraj. When you're thinking about marketing, you did hear from Dr. Abhishek. But if you're not thinking about that particular route and your main goal is just going abroad, then think about what you need to sacrifice. And that's what Dr. Ajay is mentioning. Now, I would ask a difference of opinion from Dr. Santosh and Dr. Kavita from clinical research as well as medical excellence before we ask the last question to everyone. Dr. Santosh, any recommendations from your side?
I'm on the side of my colleagues who earlier spoke. I just want to use this platform to tell people that your country needs you. India is at 1.3 billion population, 3,000 odd pharmaceutical companies in India, both global and local, right? We are supplying 50% of vaccines across the world. 40% generics in the US are from India, right? Indian pharmaceutical company was at 42 billion 2021 and is expected to reach up to 130 billion in next 10 years. So there is lots of space for all of us to grow here. And I think get prepared in your own background, and when you reach a particular stage, you would be able to call the shots. That is all I would like.
Thank you so much, Dr. Santosh. Kavita, last to you, any recommendations from your side?
Yes, I feel like I'm compelled to actually give some good news, given the fact that we have been giving the hard truth to everyone for quite a while now. So I guess one of the questions that was there is, what's the scope for a person who's done MD pharmacology in India abroad? Like Dr. Ajay mentioned, in most cases, if you have done MD pharmacology and if you're looking to be employed right away in places like US, you have to do your GRE, you have to go to a PhD in whichever university with something to do with life sciences, and then you can actually look into directly getting into the companies there, etc. However, if you have some MSL experience, and this I've heard from a lot of colleagues within my medical affairs network, if you do have some MSL experience in India, and if you on your own actually shift to another country, your chances of employability is much more different than you just entering into that country with just MD pharmacology. So as an additional tip, if you do have your own plans of actually going abroad, then the good thing is that your MD pharmacology is good enough to make you really good at the medical science liaison job. So you have that scientific expertise, so that can actually be used there. You don't exactly need to write an exam that country would offer. For example, the Ministry of Health in Dubai would expect you to write the MOH exam. And in UK, I think it's a PLAB, and USMLE for US and everything. So you don't actually need to write those exams. You can actually get into that country and work as an MSL on the basis of your educational background. Note the fact that MD pharmacology may not be recognized in these countries for you to actually work in their medical system. That's a different topic altogether. But if you have MSL experience and then you happen to move to those countries, the chances of your employability is high. Dr. Viraj, please correct me if I'm wrong here. And so I just thought, it's like, that's just a small ray of sunshine that I thought of passing through. But that said, I completely agree with whatever the esteemed panelists had to mention about being very focused on your goals, being very understand what your actual goals are. If you really want to go abroad, then make sure that you have also looked at all the other options that I mentioned. And if you want to go abroad through the company, then, like rightly mentioned, it's about being the best that you could possibly be. And it's not, the company is not looking for people to move to other countries. The company is looking for people who are excellent, who can bring value. And if you are that person, that will automatically happen.
Perfect. Thanks, Dr. Kavita, for that. With this, I'll ask one last question to each of the panelists, and that's their real life challenges, the challenges in each role that they are facing. And I'll start with Dr. Ajay, because this is a total different role that the students have been listening throughout this last 2 days, in fact, the last 2 years as well. So Dr. Ajay, in government affairs, what are the challenges that you face?
I mean, the biggest challenge, as Dr. Viraj said, is the family. They don't know what do I do. So I mean, it's easier for everyone else to say they're doctors, they're doing this, they're doing that. I mean, for the family to understand what exactly you do, they don't. I mean, it takes so much courage and conviction. I mean, the moment I can convince them, I feel I can convince anyone and everyone out in the world. Yeah, that's the fun fact. But yeah, as far as the government challenges are concerned, governments, you have to understand, are very unique, politically motivated. Maybe they have a mindset which is not the mindset the industry needs, or at times it's not in tandem working in parallel with the industry. So the industry may want to achieve 10x, but the government pace of making those changes will not keep pace with what you want to do. There are certain countries which actually have excelled, like Singapore has excelled, and that's why it's gone ahead. At one point of time, we used to compare ourselves with Singapore, and we started comparing ourselves with China. So guess what? When China raced ahead, and now we have started comparing ourselves with Brazil, and believe me, Brazil will also race ahead. So the kind of pace which we want to keep as an industry, not necessarily the government will also want to keep that pace. So you'll have to get a balance between the two. And if you can get that equilibrium right, I think that's where you can make yourself valuable to the company, valuable to the organization, and also make sure that you create a difference in patient lives out there. So that, I think, is the getting the right equilibrium will be the biggest challenge in my role.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Ajay, for those particular insights. Next, I'll ask Dr. Viraj. So what are the challenges that you face in your role?
I think going forward, and one of my bosses and mentors in the past had always said every challenge is an opportunity, which is true. But let us start with challenges. And overall, going ahead, I think there are going to be 3 significant differences in the way we operate. Number one is, what do we develop and bring to the market? All of us, we are going to get into an area where specialty medicine is going to be the norm, and we will focus on personalized medicine in every therapy area. So that means that how do you demonstrate value of every healthcare intervention, not only medicines. I'm not using the word medicines, because more and more you will not only be working with medicines, you might be working with a healthcare solution, which is an app, and you might be responsible for that. So that is one entire thing. Number 2 is, how do you do it? And here again, the role of social media is explosive. We have digital experts, and we really do not know how to work with them. So this would be my second challenge. The way we do business is going to be different from what we have been doing in the channels of delivery. And number 3, whom do you interact with? We are traditionally trained to work very, very successfully with healthcare profession, which is doctors. We do not have the skills to talk to patients and to caregivers and to communities and to nations and to governments, medical teams, not others, to payers. We really do not have skills to work with private insurance providers. And that is, again, I would say, a third challenge, which is very important. Specifically to my role, I think there are 2 challenges which I face, and then I will close my case here. Number 1 is, I have to work with 4 generations in my same team. There are few people who are just out of college. There are few people who will retire in the next 1 or 2 years. And each of them adds significant value to the organization, to the teams, and to myself. And how do I stand up to the expectations of all of these? This is one big challenge. And this is, again, it develops us, it develops that agility. And number 2, cross-functionally, today I work with 30 nationalities on an average. Many of them are very different from each other. As an Indian, how do I work? What are the cultural nuances there? So our ability to understand different cultures and make an impact and ensure that that culture does not become an impediment to your overall goal of providing quality healthcare. I would rest my case with, these are the 2 important things that I have faced. And every day in the morning when I wake up, I always think, how would I be able to satisfy the needs and the wants of my teams across cultures, across geographies, and across age groups?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Viraj. And I hope the students are listening about how to take their challenges into opportunities as well. So thank you so much, Dr. Viraj, for that. Now, most of you students would be either joining, I'm talking about most, not all, will be either joining medical affairs or clinical research. So let's ask Dr. Santosh on their challenges as well. So Dr. Santosh, over to you.
Yeah, the current challenge that we are facing within our team is identifying new investigators who can do or execute our clinical studies. And I think it goes back to the medical education itself, where clinical research as a topic is not being taught to graduates. Right? It should happen way long back when somebody enters into MBBS. I feel that is where the education should start, because what is taught and what is expected for regulations or guidelines is not the same. It's much more complex. So there is an education that is needed, and there is a mind shift of medical practitioners also, which is needed to get them, in compliance to the needs of a clinical research requirement. So that is the main challenge. So to the students, it would be try and get into this kind of a mindset, probably not through the education itself, through your contacts or by yourself, you can learn about it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Santosh, for that. Next, let's go to marketing and ask Dr. Abhishek in terms of what are the challenges does he face in his marketing role?
So I think very short answer, the strength which I shared at the start of the session, I think those are the biggest challenges which I see, is that how to collaborate. Dr. Viraj has already touched that working with 30 nationalities is not an easy thing. And you will understand when you work with them, a single word can have a different interpretation and different meanings to different people, and how it will offend them or make them happy, you don't know. Second thing, as I said, it's about the active listening. And the third thing, which I would say that it is always a challenge which I am facing, is asking a why question, that why I am doing this thing. There are a lot of things which we just do as a what, that we need to do this thing, how we need to do it, how, but why exactly we are doing this, there are a lot of times it's not clear. We just keep working on it. So that why, asking that why question, it sometimes becomes a challenge, even in bigger companies and in companies like AstraZeneca, where you have a speak up culture. Is still we just get so much engrossed in our role that we stop asking why question to ourselves. So I think these are the three challenges which I would see, and I'm still, after 10 years in AstraZeneca, I'm still trying to work on these three things, trying to move from challenge to strength for myself.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abhishek. And I hope we also think about not just ticking the check boxes and actually thinking about the why questions as well. So thank you so much, Dr. Abhishek. Next, let's ask the last but not least, Dr. Kavita, in terms of medical excellence and capability building, what are your challenges that you face?
Well, from an international perspective, I think the main challenge that I face is time zones. International never sleeps. Then we have emails coming in at all times of the day because if Australia is awake and Brazil is sleeping, and then when Brazil is awakened, then Australia is. But so yeah, we can expect emails at all times of the day and even messages. But no, jokes aside, that's actually one of the things that that you're signing up for when you're going for above market, and in a way, it's welcome as well. I think one of the things that actually keep me up thinking of what to do next are the ones that Dr. Viraj had mentioned, because part of my role is to support his expectations and what he wants his team to achieve. And that also includes what he touched upon about different ways of working. I'm pretty sure that the word omni-channel would be the industry buzzword of the century, especially since the whole digital transformation and everything is going on. And my role in helping the team move along that, and also encouraging people to spend some time on their own development. It would be surprising to a lot of people out here, but not everyone is actually thinking of their own development when they are in the industry. Most of the times they are, especially the medical team, they're very, very dedicated to the doctors that they're supporting and the patients who are benefited at large, which means that I need to fight for attention, to bring attention back to their own development, and to bring in the upskilling and everything that they need to get ahead. So that would be, for me, a challenge to do that efficiently and to maintain that engagement, and to ensure that the axe is sharpened and sharpened often enough for us to be relevant and cutting edge. So that along with, I think, what Dr. Abhishek had mentioned, how to deal with stakeholders of diverse cultures. And I think he earlier mentioned, a single word can actually mean different things. And I think the most important part of communication is not just saying what you think, but making sure that the other person understood what you are trying to say. And with diversity of culture, that can, and not just diversity of culture, even in a very, any role that you take up, that could always be a challenge. But very importantly, the challenge does not mean that it cannot be transferred into an opportunity. It's about how you actually take that up. So if you're ready to challenge yourself to take that on, I think it's not much of a problem at all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kavita, for those kind words. In fact, because of that particular buzzword, omni-channel, we had a separate session last week as well. And like you said, we normally take our development, the last checkbox, and think about all the rest before. So thank you so much for getting all your perspectives. And with this, we come to an end of this particular great discussion. Thank you so much, the esteemed panel members, for answering all of those questions so patiently. I can tell 90% of the questions that had come in their feedback forms were on these lines itself. So thank you so much. And I hope for the students, most of your questions are answered. For those questions that are not answered, we have a specific live faculty interactions on the last day, that is 10th of December. So kindly join for the remaining questions. So thank you so much, everyone, Dr. Viraj, Dr. Ajay, Dr. Kavita, Dr. Abhishek, and Dr. Santosh for joining us. With this, let's go to the last session. It's definitely not the least. And this is another opportunity for you. So you did have a diverse opportunity discussions right now, but another opportunity that is pharmacovigilance as well as regulatory affairs. And I can see that there was a lot of questions on that part as well. So for this particular session, that is role of medical affairs and regulatory, medical affairs in regulatory and pharmacovigilance, we have with us two panel members, Mr. Rishi Kapoor, Director, Regulatory Affairs and Patient Safety, and Dr. Veena Rajan, Executive Director, Patient Safety. Mr. Rishi has more than 15 years of experience in various multinational companies in regulatory and is leading a team responsible for that as well. And Dr. Veena Rajan has more than 15 years of experience at AstraZeneca at patient safety, leading a team of physicians and scientists responsible for pharmacovigilance of established brands of AstraZeneca. With this, I hand over the discussion to starting with Mr. Rishi. What is the role? Since we got a lot of questions, sir, in terms of what is the role of medical, how do we get into regulatory affairs, etc. So I start with you, Dr. Rishi, in terms of what is the role of medical affairs and regulatory.
Thanks, Apeksha, for setting this platform for me. And thanks, I'll surely take it forward. Just hope I can do justice to such a broad topic, and just to start with, basically, if you see everywhere, it's usually medical affairs and regulatory affairs. They're usually always mentioned in most of the activities together, and go very strongly together. In fact, if you see, medical affairs and regulatory are one of those teams which have to, collaborate at all levels to deliver more efficiently in the organization. Well, to take it a little forward and facilitate this discussion, Shah, maybe I can share my screen.
Sure, sir, you can share. So are you sharing or do I ask the team? Okay.
Please do let me know once my screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So usually do not have
full screen, sir.
To full screen, please.
Slideshow.
Sure, I can do that. Do not have many slides, but enough to let the discussion going. So there are multiple levels at which, medical and regulatory collaborate. And in regulatory affairs, we may be instrumental in filing various applications, submissions to the health authorities globally. But we have a very solid partnership with medical affairs. Regulatory affairs, usually if you ask anyone, will what are they responsible for? What are the roles? They'll mention some of these broad points, majorly clinical trials, approvals for clinical trials, new drug applications, submissions for, and approvals for mainly new drug formulations, various new drug molecules, biologicals and small molecules. Of course, pharmacovigilance is another area, and I believe my colleague, Dr. Veena, will be also taking it in detail a little later. Then we have various partnership opportunities where regulatories and medical go hand in hand, like in-licensing and, out-licensing. These activities where we also are very important partners. And of course, business development initiative. Usually, it's understood that medical has a role in kind of approval of the drug molecule or till the launch. But maybe, what my opinion is that, in fact, medical will be playing a very crucial role, just like regulatory, for the entire life cycle of the drug molecule. In fact, bringing a new product to market is a very unique and complex process in today's time. And here, medical affairs plays, along with regulatory, a very critical part. If you see the clinical trials, even medical is involved even in preclinicals as well as post-clinical trial situation. They're involved in clinical trials also stage, in fact, from phase 1 to phase 4. In fact, seeing the pressures there and the kind of value they add, there's a new class which has emerged, ISLs, we can say. So investigator science liaisons, which are very different from medical liaisons or medical affairs main core, because these ISLs play a very critical role, in the pre-approval stage. Similarly, regulatory depends very heavily on medical when at the time of NDAs also, new drug approvals. When we do our filings, at least in Indian health authorities, the approval process is very complex and it's multi-stage. And one of the first stages, which is very crucial and in principle grants approval to molecules, there is a representation in subject expert committees where some of the key experts, top-notch professionals, head of the departments from various national institutes are representing, along with the health authority officials, and where we have to present. And it's usually medical affairs along with regulatory who kind of carry the baton or responsibilities there. Similarly, in pharmacovigilance, till a decade back, it was one of those areas which was not that focused, at least in India. Globally, yes, it has always been in prominence. But in India, in I think last decade, we have made it more stringent, more regulations coming in this field. And now one of the conditions which regulators track through all organizations is that you should have competent people for pharmacovigilance. And they have made it very stringent timelines. We have to submit these applications, these informations. And there also, medical plays a very, very crucial role. Similarly, all these off licensing, in licensing, business development initiatives where medical plays a very important role. Even till recently, we didn't have, we were dependent in approval process on orphan drugs and rare diseases. Until recently, we never had even those definitions. We were dependent on other well-regulated countries for all these. But now, that's where medical defines the prevalence for each condition, and which plays a very crucial role in getting approvals and the kind of processes we follow there. In detail, if we go to the approval processes, product launches, and how we collaborate at each stage, maybe this slide would help for better understanding. Regulatory usually looks at a regulatory strategy, then decides on the timelines and how we move ahead. They were mostly in multinationals, they receive the regulatory dossiers from global, having all the global information, on basis of which regulatory moves ahead, approaches the health authorities and goes for new drug filing. Couple of years back, it was a hard filing or a physical filing. And currently we file for all applications, all submissions are through e-submission on our portals. And once this filing is done by the regulatory, the review process begins. And that is where, we have various stages. And as I mentioned earlier, the subject expert committee review also is part of this in principle. Now, this whole process goes hand in hand along with medical, where even before we get the dossier or we are deciding on filing, medical is the one which evaluates and gives its comment on what is the relevance of molecule to country. That's the first step, in fact. Whether even the molecule is needed in the country or not, will it make sense to bring such drug options or options to the country or not, to provide access to the patients? Then is the nature of the molecule and the condition, whether there is a requirement of local clinical data. Who assesses that? It's medical, which plays a very crucial role there. Whether we can proceed without local clinical data or whether it's essential, seeing the prevalence rates in the country. And of course, efficacy and safety play a deciding role there also. and then identifying the best indication, which is the broadest, what indication to opt for, because it may be different in different countries. Mainly, of course, we go by the broadest one, but medical decides what will benefit the patients in the country. We have subject expert committee preparations, presentations, then the local documents. Along with that, we have, PIs, which usually, is one where medical is directly involved and in fact leads the way, along with regulatory. And throughout, and when we are talking about various clinical trials, post-approval, we also have a stage of, mandated conditions most of the time of phase 4 clinical trial, which is to be conducted in local population in approved indication. And that's where, again, the medical drives the show. Throughout the life cycle of the entire drug, medical is the one, along with regulatory, which is, kind of running the show, as well as at various junctures, medical supports regulatory to represent the point in front of our health authorities. In fact, for new indications, any expansion of indications, any major changes, the justifications, rationales do come on the scientific basis from the medical teams. They are involved in market research, brand plans, pre-launch activities, and even in the approval process and post-approval. In fact, they support it throughout the entire life cycle of the product. So it's very rare you'll be able to separate out regulatory from medical. In fact, it's kind of goes hand in hand from beginning till end. That's the kind of ever critical role that is being done by medical. In fact, world over, all the regulatory authorities are also, appreciating the involvement of medical in the approval processes. In fact, recently our health authorities, even for pharmacovigilance, have hired special experts from medical background only for, detailed evaluation of causality assessments, because they feel that plays a very important role during even post-approval of the drug in the country. These are some of the areas where we have seen a direct involvement. But as I said, medical plays a very crucial role of bridge between, the R&D organizations and the commercial organizations. They are from scientific background, and their involvement, their, in fact, responsibilities have been ever growing in regulatory area all the more.
Thank you.
So I think I'll stop sharing my screen. Meksha, any questions, any suggestions, maybe any comments?
Thank you so much, Rishi sir, for deliberating on how medical plays a role in regulatory. There were so many questions. I'll now ask Dr. Veena ma'am, and then maybe ask both of you the questions that have come in the chat box as well in their feedback forms. Dr. Veena ma'am, as I asked the same question to Rishi sir in terms of what is the role of medical in regulatory affairs, the same question to you in terms of what is the role of medical in pharmacovigilance. Over to you, ma'am. You're on mute, ma'am.
Yeah. First, what do we know about pharmacovigilance? Like all of you, what is pharmacovigilance? It's like a term. Do we understand what it means, right? Pharmacovigilance is basically, it's a science also of relating to safety of our drugs. And we as physicians, what more is important for us? The safety of our patients, right? That is our priority. Yes, a drug can be efficacious, but if the patient is going to have side effects and he or she is not able to use it, then what is the point, right? And we spoke about clinical trials, the approvals. So in India, like when we have to get an approval, Rishi really set the background right. We get approvals based on few clinical studies where the drugs are exposed maybe to 5,000, maybe some studies, maybe 10,000 patients. But as physicians here, we all know there are very rare events. How many of us would have seen SJS 10 very rare, commonly in our practice? These are very rare events. They are seen maybe in 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 20,000 or even rarer than that, right? definitely rarer than that. I'm like reporting, I would say. So these are picked up only in a post-marketing phase, only when it is after the drug is launched. So that is where pharmacovigilance comes into play. We are continually monitoring the safety of the drugs even after the drugs are launched, not only in the clinical trials where we submit the efficacy and safety data. So pharmacovigilance plays an important role post the drugs launch. And who is the best person to identify these? It's us, the physicians. The patients comes to us. They don't know, is this because of the drug, or is this because of something I touched something and that's why this allergy, or is it because of this? That could be, it's we who can do the best judgment. So medical plays a very, very important and a crucial role. And I'm sure all of us have faced it. And how many of us do report our adverse events? We also, as patients, we also become patients. We are not only physicians, we also are patients sometimes. We take medications. If we have adverse events, how many of us think it's right to report it? We don't do that, right? Overall, in India, there's a lot of underreporting. But I think things, as Rishi said it, right? Things are improving and we all should move. And then physicians play a very, very important role in identifying it and reporting it to get a better data of our, like the profiles are so different, right? Ethnicity, race makes so much of a difference. Yes, the pharmacovigilance is very stringent in other countries, Europe, or FDA, China, Brazil, even all these countries where you hear about from Ajay too, that, you know, they're all far ahead in many other things. Now, absolutely true. In India, we need a lot of catch up to do, but then it starts from us, right? The physicians. We need to start it. We need to report it. Government is putting efforts to collect a database to see what is the data in Indian patients. Like our genetic profile could be different. Many of us know, like for example, even the statins, right, have to be taken in a less dosage in Indian, Asian population when compared to the others. Where does this data come from? So similarly, there could be something which is more prone on ethnicity. The safety could be how we would react. So physicians play a very, very important role. And especially if you're going to be in medical affairs, where you're going to be continuously monitoring both the safety and the efficacy of the drug, and then communicating it to the other physicians, spreading the message, which is also very equally important too, right? There are drugs, because there are drugs which has been in the market for 20 years, but we still keep updating new adverse events. We still see new rare adverse events which are happening, and still the core data sheet or the label, the prescribing information keeps getting updated with these new adverse events. How many of us get that message? We don't. As physicians, we might not even get it. But we, in medical affairs, will be the right people to take it across to the physicians, the message directly. Hey, we are seeing this. We have seen myasthenia gravis. After many years, myasthenia gravis is such a rare event. We have seen in this class of drugs. Please beware. So that's where, where we are connecting the science with the safety of our patients, which is the utmost as physicians. And so this is a beautiful science, though we are not directly seeing the patients, but continuously monitoring the safety and benefit of the drugs gives you so much of content that, when you see a rare adverse event and you're able to pick it up and say, hey, this needs to be communicated immediately to all our other health authorities. So when you do that, I think, and then pass on the message to everybody, the science is really a very, very important science where the physicians play a key role.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Veena, for emphasizing on what are the key roles that the medical plays in pharmacovigilance. So thank you so much, Dr. Veena. Rishi sir, the next question is to you. Can an MD pharmacologist directly apply for a role in regulatory affairs? And if yes, what are the skills that are applied, that are required for a person in regulatory affairs?
I think there's no doubt about it that someone with those qualifications can apply for regulatory or not. Of course, the basic criteria for regulatory is already met through the syllabus you have already done. I believe everybody has a subject called jurisprudence or forensics in their course. And if you see, that has totally to do with regulations, and that is kind of the which is the preparatory part. And once you join a department or a function of regulatory, you pay more attention to these regulations. Some of them may be of more of importance as compared to the others, and we may be using more often in our journey and responsibilities. And that's what will gain experience as we go on that journey. But surely no challenge there. And initially, of course, the responsibilities go hand in hand with the kind of experience. Initially, you'll start with on smaller activities. You'll be not handling immediately, a full-fledged dossier submission, but you may handle a part of dossier. But no doubt about there that someone with this qualification they're more than welcome, and we'll wait for you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Rishi sir, for those answers. I hope the students are thinking of a different opportunity from the ones that we already discussed in various opportunities for physicians. Now, Dr. Veena ma'am, since this particular question was in terms of various opportunities was discussed in the last session, we didn't have a specific session on pharmacovigilance. But since this is one more area where majority of the postgraduate medical students do join in industry, it's either medical affairs or research, and then the third one is pharmacovigilance. So what are the skills, especially during their postgraduate days, that they can develop to join industry in pharmacovigilance?
You don't need any special skill. It's that the passion and the interest you need, right? That is what you need. And if you think safety is important, and then how are you going to relate the science sitting behind the desk with the data, right? You're going to be working with pool of data, all the adverse events which are going to come. So without seeing a patient, and you would be doing that. So if you have that interest and passion for it, there is no way to stop you. Definitely, there's a lot of scope in PV, and it's really an interesting science where you get involved, starting all the way from clinical development too, right? All the clinical trials, there's a lot of safety data which comes in. You analyze the data, you summarize it, and you say this is then you sort of weigh the benefit over the risk. And so this is, as long as you have that passion and interest to do that, nobody can stop you from applying or doing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Veena ma'am. Rishi sir, the same question to you, since you also talk about patient safety.
Before that, Aksha, I thought I'll add to maybe chip in a bit to what Dr. Veena was mentioning, and maybe take her acknowledgement on that for the benefit of all the students who are attending. Dr. Veena, we have seen globally, all health agencies, even the most well-regulated and stringent ones are moving, and they welcome, medical students or, professionals from medical background and having specialized expertise in pharmacovigilance these days to evaluate all these. And I believe that's a very core specialization which is under focus globally these days.
Yes, I mean, of course, all authorities are becoming very stringent. Even a country like Saudi Arabia, we may think it's small, but their regulations are very, very stringent when compared to our country. So everywhere there's a lot of importance to the safety of our drugs moving forward.
Thank you so much, Rishi sir and Dr. Veena ma'am. With this, let's ask one specific question to both of you in terms of what are the challenges that are there in regulatory affairs as well as pharmacovigilance. Let's start with Rishi sir. What are the challenges that you face in regulatory affairs?
I think, Apeksha, once we start, that's one area we'll have so much, There are many, many challenges because regulations in each country are very, very specific and very different. To meet all of those and have a strategy for that and still provide expedited access to the patients is a challenge at all times. But currently, if you see some of the major challenges in the country which we are facing, as per our regulations and where all our energies and focus is on currently, is how to generate local clinical data where it is needed and essential, and how we can get waivers for this condition of generation of local clinical data wherever it is feasible and not adding value. So we have seen that we usually try to ask for waivers because these local clinical trials, may sometimes delay providing access to the patients, by at least a couple of years. And that is why we see how we can bridge that gap from some of the countries where it has been, the drug product has been launched much earlier, has been commercialized, and we recognize and we share with our regulators some of those data which has emerged from some of those well-regulated countries. But this harmonization is what's the current need, and which everybody is kind of working on. That if we have got some of the key global regulatory approvals, and we have generated data, clinical data in some of these key countries, which are very, very well regulated and also acknowledged by our regulators, then we should actually focus more on generating data, maybe in fields or indications which have not been explored globally yet, but no repetitive need for these generation of these data again and again. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Rishi sir, for those insights. Now I would request Dr. Veena ma'am, in terms of pharmacovigilance, what are the challenges that you face?
Pharmacovigilance, as we're talking about, is underreporting, right? We need to identify these, we need data. Where does this data come from? As long as we report. And we don't report, we don't get that data. And then who's at loss? It's us and our patients. So I think the culture of reporting any adverse events should imbibe with every one of us. I think that is where, or even when patients come to us, we need to say, if you see anything different, please come to me immediately or call me or something, whichever the way of mode of contact. And then India is now creating a lot of pharmacovigilance centers where they're collecting it. And so hopefully we would see that there is a proper database within India where we can analyze our data, look into safety data of our own patients, not only dependent. Yes, we have other global databases where we are using, but they're also like, there is a good reporting, but then the informations normally are not very, very clean or clear in a clinical data. In a clinical trial, the data is very, very neat and clear. The patients are there. Because they're in a trial, we reach out to them, collect the entire information, even if an adverse event is when it started, when it stopped, how many days was it, how did it recover, or it did not recover, did you take something, did you stop the drug? All this information is normally very clean in a clinical trial. But in a post-marketing setting, people don't report, even if it's true, you don't get these clean data to even analyze that. So this is something, it's a real challenge for us when we're trying to evaluate the safety of our drugs.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Veena, for reiterating. I know you started with underreporting as well, and you're finishing with underreporting, which shows how important reporting is and how critical and what challenges it happens when the adverse events are underreported. So thank you so much, Dr. Veena ma'am, for re-emphasizing on the same. I can see Rishi sir has another point to add on. Rishi sir, over to you.
So in full alignment with what Dr. Veena was saying, but not many people, or showcase it. In fact, just to share an example here, some couple of years back, we were sharing some data from with the regulators seeking some important approval, and what happened was, the results of the study were efficacy wise and adverse event wise were pretty encouraging, but regulators did not accept any kind of give much value to that study, and they asked for a repeat study. Main reason was they said your serious adverse events, we believe are not in alignment with the globally what's been reported. You have such limited adverse events and not even a redness or swelling at the site of administration of injection. And they said we will not give much weightage to this data and just see how much taxing it is for resources and the time when you have to redo a study just because of underreporting and all. It's such a critical factor, which is these days being faced by pharmacovigilance, I would say. Thanks. That's all.
Thank you so much, Rishi sir, on again re-emphasizing on how much critical reporting of adverse events is. So thank you so much, Rishi sir. With this, first of all, thank you so much, Rishi sir, as well as Veena ma'am, for sparing your time despite your busy schedule to discuss about how important role of medical affairs is in regulatory, as well as Veena ma'am, and also discussing in terms of challenges and what are their roles. So thank you so much once again, Rishi sir and Dr. Veena ma'am. With this, we come to the end of day 3 of PharmaSteer. We just have one more day, and I would request each one of you to join day 4 as well, because we have our live faculty interaction. So any questions that you have unanswered till now, the last 3 days, you have an opportunity to ask it to the team as well. So see you on day 4 on the 10th of December from 2 p.m. onwards. So bye.
Thank you. Bye.